The Wanderer is a fearless warrior clutching a sacred artifact that grants him incredible power. His path is full of dangers as he engages in uneven battles with demons and monsters. Armed with faith and courage, he boldly walks into the darkness protecting the weak. Saving cities from hordes of demons and monsters, the wandering adventurer became a legendary hero, and his feats and victories were inscribed in legends and tales passed down from generation to generation, igniting the hearts of future heroes to follow his example. After reading stories about the exploits of an ancient traveler who saved cities and defeated demons, the young man was filled with the desire to become such a great hero. Immersed in reading ancient legends, he did not even notice how a person suddenly appeared nearby and with one sharp movement snatched the book from his hands. From a young age immersed in the world of books, the boy dreamed of becoming a true hero like in those stories, and he became so absorbed in dreams of adventures and feats that he did not notice two hooligans quietly sneaking up behind him, snatching the book from him and beginning to examine what had captivated him so much. One of the hooligans asked if he was reading that book by himself again, and the second, flipping through it, realized that it was again a story about a hero who was initially weak, but, having received a sacred artifact, became powerful and famous. The hooligan did not stop and asked him again if he really dreamed of becoming a hero. The third intervened and said that the boy definitely would not become a hero because he lacked courage. And it was on that day that he seriously pondered the words of the hooligan for the first time. But instead of giving up on his dream, he firmly decided to become a true adventurer. Suddenly, a loud scream rang out, "Return the stolen book to the boy." The hooligans turned around and saw Ruby in front of them. The boy realized that her appearance gave him a chance to prove himself and show his courage. Her support filled him with confidence, and now he felt he could stand up to bullies and defend the right to read his favorite books. He opened his eyes and spoke the name of the very girl who helped him believe in his own strength and pushed him to take the first step toward fulfilling his cherished dream. At that moment, she looked carefully at the boy, as if evaluating him. When Ratzu turned back to look at her, Ruby was a little embarrassed but still smiled at the boy and wished him good morning. Her face was noticeably wet with sweat, revealing her nervousness and embarrassment. He asked in surprise why and how she ended up in his room. The girl tried to explain why she appeared, but the words got stuck in her throat, and she could not clearly and distinctly express her thoughts. The older sister sighed and said that she had been knocking on the door for a long time, but the young man did not respond, so she had to crawl inside through the window. Moreover, she was ordered to wake him up. Ratzu was so impressed by this unusual way of waking up that he literally froze in amazement. The girl pressed the boy, insistently urging him, "Get ready faster today, the long-awaited blessing will finally take place." The young man finally realized how serious everything was. Indeed, today was the very important ceremony during which God gave special holy gifts to children who turned 12. The mother said to the children, with sadness in her voice, that she would not be able to go with them to the ceremony. She asked Ruby-chan to look after Ratzu. The girl explained that as the older sister she had to take care of him, but the young man himself, hearing this, smiled to himself. After all, they were the same age. There was no difference between them. The sister looked around with admiration. There were so many people in the church that she sincerely felt joyful from the festive atmosphere, the noise, and the bustle. And the brother, observing her reaction, only sighed and jokingly said that she was behaving like a little child. The girl asked in surprise if he had again stayed up until morning with a book after all. He was so impatiently waiting for this special day that she could not imagine how he managed to oversleep such an important event. Ratzu admitted that he was very nervous before the upcoming ceremony. And hearing this, Ruby immediately repeated his words as if checking whether she understood her brother correctly. Now she understood why the boy was so worried. Such an important event happens only once in the life of every child, and no one knows in advance what gift he will receive from the gods. Brother was worried, fearing that he would get some strange, incomprehensible sacred treasure. Ruby tried to calm him down, assuring that the chance of that was extremely low. The older sister continued, "The boys from the village often laugh at them, so she wants something special that would impress everyone around." Ratzu agreed with her but remained silent. He couldn't find the words to respond. The boys could not help but overhear the conversation of two youths nearby. One of them said confidently to the other that if at the ceremony he manages to obtain rank C or higher, the path to the ranks of true adventurers would automatically open. Continuing the conversation, the man added that his friend previously wanted to engage in the family business selling fruits. The interlocutor confirmed that he intends to reach at least level D and emphasized confidence in his abilities, and that on the new path he would succeed. Meanwhile, nearby 2 young girls were quietly whispering. One stated that it is better to have an adventurer as a protector than to become one herself, and the other readily agreed. Listening to the conversations, the boy realized, not everyone dreams of becoming adventurers. The coming-of-age festival gathered a whole crowd of people, among whom there were different goals and desires. The sister supported his observation, noting the diversity of views and aspirations of those present. But suddenly movement from the side distracted Ratzu. He looked around cautiously and noticed something interesting, or perhaps suspicious. Scanning the crowd, the youth noticed several strangers who radiated confidence and calm. Thinking they were experienced adventurers, he watched them with interest, trying to notice subtle traits of their behavior and posture. He recalled the rule: when an experienced adventurer admires someone's character or skills, he can simply immediately invite the novice to the community, bypassing the usual entrance exam. Ruby asked with distrust if that was true. From tension and anticipation, the youth's hands slightly trembled. Seeing how the brother was glowing with excitement, the sister asked if he remembered the promise he had made earlier. Both swore to protect the inhabitants of their native land from attacks by evil demons. Together, they decided to become the greatest heroes, whose names would be known everywhere, and their contribution to the defense of peace would forever remain in the memory of generations. The desire to become the best of the best filled their hearts with pride and confidence in the future. They all had one goal: to become adventurers, fulfill their dreams, and become famous as great heroes worthy of respect and imitation. And they sincerely believed that with talent, hard work, and mutual support, they would definitely succeed. Suddenly, a strange voice behind the boys broke the silence. The stranger confidently said that every word he spoke was absolute truth because he had checked everything himself and had seen many wonders with his own eyes. The stranger loudly exclaimed that he did not doubt for a second. For him, this was a true hero, ready for great feats, and the surprised man cautiously asked what exactly was meant by this title, hoping to learn more about what this man intended to do in the future. Ruby exclaimed excitedly and loudly that the title of hero is given only to the most powerful and respected adventurer. A young man approached her and calmly explained that their group had been looking for this girl for a long time. The sister's friends, who had fallen a little behind, loudly called her, saying that she was late and that the ceremony was about to begin. She quickly told her brother that she would be gone for a short time, promising to return in a minute. Ratzu thought sadly about how different they were. She easily made friends, was surrounded by people, and was always the center of attention, while he was reserved and shy, preferring to spend time alone, immersing himself in old tomes and legends. A passerby accidentally bumped into the confused boy with his shoulder, and he felt even more awkward and anxious at that moment. It turned out to be Helio, a local rogue, with a sharp tongue and a brazen character. Passing by, he mockingly apologized to Ratzu and sarcastically added that he simply hadn't noticed such a trivial thing. He mockingly asked if that boy was going to the ceremony. The hooligan mockingly said that he was curious to see what small, worthless things such a weak opponent would get if he got anything at all. Helio continued to mock, claiming that he did not believe at all in the boy's ability to participate in the fight, and that it would be better for him not to show up at all. Frightened and insecure, Ratzu awkwardly nodded his head, agreeing with the cheeky teenager's thought, feeling how fear paralyzed his body and prevented him from acting decisively. The hooligan brazenly snatched the boy's favorite book and mockingly asked if he still rereads old fairy tales, as if he hadn't outgrown childish games. Helio laughed wickedly and shouted that it was foolish to think one could become a hero just by obtaining a powerful artifact, then disdainfully called the boy barely a 2-year-old child, emphasizing his naivety and weakness. Suddenly, someone's hand firmly grabbed the hooligan's wrist and stopped the flow of offensive words. It turned out to be Ruby. She looked sternly at Helio and authoritatively ordered him to immediately return the stolen book, which he had rudely taken from the younger companion. Ratzu sighed with relief, feeling his sister's support and finally freed from Helio's unpleasant pressure. Irritated by her interference, the hooligan clicked his tongue angrily and irritably complained that she always spoils his fun by getting in his way. Helio arrogantly declared that a man who needs a woman's protection is definitely not worthy of possessing a sacred artifact and does not deserve the title of a true adventurer. The cutting words struck him right in the heart, making him feel worthless and miserable. But Ruby instantly took the boy's side, gently suggesting, "Sometimes the best response is silence, and such attacks are not worth attention." The girl proudly emphasized that her brother intends to dedicate himself to a noble cause, to become a skilled and brave hero, capable of bearing responsibility with dignity and overcoming any difficulties. Ratzu was overwhelmed with deep gratitude to his sister. Only she could understand his feelings and lend a shoulder, restoring faith in his own strength. The priest solemnly announced the beginning of the important blessing ceremony, and loudly calling, invited the young candidates undergoing the initiation rite to approach the temple altar, where sacred relics and divine protection awaited them. Before the ceremony began, the boy whispered a prayer, recalling the tradition that on a certain day the sacred light of the sun allows people to touch the gods. And Ruby, noticing that important moments were approaching, quietly warned her brother that the ceremony had already started. Suddenly, one of the boys stepped forward and voluntarily volunteered to be the first to test his fate, courage, and self-confidence, which were almost absent among his peers. Under the attentive gazes of those present, he confidently walked to the altar, gathering all his determination to successfully complete the ritual. The priest addressed him and gave instructions: focus and pray. Soon a bright beam of light illuminated the young man's face. Filling him with energy and inner radiance, it was a sign that the gods approved him. The light from the altar blazed so brightly that most people in the church hall had to cover their eyes with their hands, squinting from the dazzling glow and feeling slight dizziness. When Ratzu opened his eyes, he finally understood. This was not a simple church, but a majestic hall lit by bright candlelight and permeated with mystery. It was here that the most important blessing ceremony took place, deciding the fate of each participant. The young man carefully held an unusual blade in his hands, gifted to him by the gods. Everyone present looked at the new sacred artifact with curiosity and reverence, trying to guess what abilities the owner of this weapon possessed. He stood up to full height and loudly declared that he was chosen by the magnificent steel battle axe, which the gods classified as a Class C weapon. One of the young men in the crowd exclaimed in surprised, genuine joy. The first candidate was so lucky to receive a high-level artifact, proving his exceptional qualities and great potential. The priest addressed the gathered. The true power of the obtained artifact will awaken only when its owner fully wears all the necessary equipment and decorations, and he immediately called for volunteers with sacred weapons to declare their treasures. Helio gloomily looked at his lucky rival, feeling envy and disappointment, as if fate had been more generous to the rival and gave him a higher-level artifact. Next, one of the girls spoke. Modestly standing up, she confidently walked to the altar, bowed before the shrine, and immersing herself in sincere, fervent prayer, begged the gods to send her a suitable sacred artifact. She took out a scorching dagger of the storm. Someone from the crowd shouted that this year might bring a bountiful harvest. He continued that this was already the second person with such a rank, and the boy nearby held his breath, tensely waiting to see what would happen next. Ratzu was not surprised that the people around were happy. The treasures were distributed by the will of the gods. Artifact items are divided into 6 ranks: A, B, C, D, E, and F, with rank D in the middle. And it is already known that 2 lucky ones received valuable items of Class C. This is a real achievement. Ruby hoped that they would also get worthy artifacts. The brother nodded in agreement, well aware that this night would bring changes. He keenly felt his weakness and how easily he cried. He had been mocked all his life, but now the decisive moment had come that could radically change his fate. But for this, a powerful artifact was needed that would give him strength and confidence. The sister calmed him. "Don't worry," she said. "Everything will be fine." It turned out that Helio received a lightning spear of rank B, and the friends rejoiced, saying they already knew, after which they asked to see the spear. Various groups constantly called him to join, promising a career as an adventurer. But the young man only sneered disdainfully, looked closely at the young adventurers, and doubted whether they could be useful at all. Ratzu tried to support Helio, sincerely rejoicing in his success. Meanwhile, Ruby watched what was happening with envy and firmly decided to obtain a treasure much more valuable and powerful. The boy next to her encouraged her with words of support, sincerely wishing her luck. The girl proclaimed her name and began to pray, fully immersed in conversation with the gods, while the boy standing nearby was tormented by doubts and hope, asking himself whether his older sister noticed his feelings and experiences. When he was little, he hid in booksand because of this, often remained alone. The young man recalled how his peers constantly humiliated and laughed at him, saying he would never become a true hero. But only his sister always stood up for him, supported him, and inspired him to believe in himself. She bravely fought back against those who insulted her younger brother, but as an older sister she understood. She could not protect him forever. The boy will have to learn to stand up for himself and prove to others that he is worthy of respect. The girl also knew that he wants to become a cool hero. At that very moment, the boy felt a dream arise in his heart: become as strong and brave as his older sister. Ruby dropped the fire dragon-level sword from her hands. The priest solemnly showed this unique artifact, admitted that he was seeing such a thing for the first time, and called it truly amazing. The boy sincerely admired Rubia. She proudly showed her younger brother her most powerful artifact, and he looked at her with adoration, considering her a true heroine. The girl was suddenly overwhelmed with offers to join various teams, but she wished the rats good luck and left the choice to herself. The boy approached the altar and humbly asked God to give him the strength to become a hero. He asked for strength to erase once, and for all the image of a weak, whiny boy, whom even Helio easily defeated. The boy wanted to gain such strength so that he could help Ruby and fight honorably side by side with her. He wanted this strength only for one reason: to protect his dear older sister. His hopes were shattered when the young man received an extremely strange and, frankly, unattractive artifact. Helio laughed loudly and contemptuously said that the boy was left with only a pile of useless junk. While the whole company was laughing, the sharp click of women's heels echoed through the room and instantly drew everyone's attention. Everyone immediately noticed a beautiful and majestic girl who confidently entered the room. Her appearance and manners revealed true aristocracy, and no one doubted this was exactly the celebrity whose arrival left no room for error. The hero of Paludi approached Ruby with an offer to join. Everyone was stunned. The heroine of Paludi herself invited this girl to her group. Many believed that she simply had to agree. Such an offer does not come to everyone. Ruby herself could not believe the miracle that had happened. The heroine decisively said that she had to follow her, but the girl, blinking in embarrassment, tried to explain something and hesitantly chose her words. Ruby firmly squeezed her brother's hand and gently asked the noble lady to wait a little. The boy realized that his reward was an artifact of the lowest F rank, and was stunned when a completely rusty, battered sword ended up in his hands. The older sister approached Baluda and fervently asked to allow Rats to join. She wanted her brother to be in this glorious team alongside her. She sharply told the young man that he definitely would not become an adventurer. He felt completely disappointed and hopeless, having lost faith in the possibility of changing his fate. Everything became clear. The heroine's words were not a lie. This is the weakest artifact one can imagine. Paludi continued to explain that demons have incredibly tough skin covered with protective magic, so with ordinary weapons or low-rank artifacts, Rats could not even cause a scratch. The girl added that his weapon was of the lowest class. Rank F. The young man realized that the blessing ceremony could be considered a complete failure, and he would have to spend the rest of his life as an eternal loser. The heroine continued and warned. If he went with them, he would quickly become easy prey for monsters or demons. Then she coldly advised him to voluntarily give up any further attempts to become a hero. The sister decisively replied that no one would know for sure until they tried. She warmly said that she would definitely help. These words caught the boy by surprise and literally cornered him. He clearly felt his family would choose him, not the renowned hero, and would protect him forever like a small child. This thought caused the young man deep sorrow. Rats no longer wanted to remain under the protection of his loved ones. That very day, he decided to act alone. He asked the girl to go ahead and wait there, while he resolutely declared that he would pass the trial and become a true adventurer. The sister reminded him of that promise, but the young man replied that he would one day become such an adventurer who would not yield even to recognized heroes. The young man resolutely said that he would become a man who could protect the girl, and promised that he would definitely catch up with her. Before Ruby's eyes, a familiar image suddenly flashed. She saw again how her younger brother ordered the monsters to retreat from her, as if an old scene was repeating. The sister remembered how he tightly squeezed her little hand, instilling confidence that she was strong and could overcome any difficulties. How the animals retreated from his voice, and how he begged her not to cry, calmed her, and promised to always be by her side. The girl thoughtfully whispered one simple but weighty word: hero, and her gaze clouded with childhood memories when her little brother stood up to protect her, ready to rush at any threat. Ruby gently pulled his head to her chest and quietly promised to wait until her brother returned. This promise became their new treasure, binding them even closer, and now he needed to overcome any obstacles, justify his sister's faith, and definitely catch up with her to prove to the whole world and himself he can become a true hero. Helio clicked his tongue irritably and looked disapprovingly at the boy's book, while the boy sadly looked at the carriage that was taking his dear relatives away. Ratzu was deeply upset by the failure. He realized that he had not fulfilled his first promise to his sister to become a traveler with her, so he decided to give himself a new oath, to succeed and overcome all obstacles under any circumstances. Although he got the weakest relic, an old rusty sword that revealed his vulnerability and weakness, he did not give up. Raising the sword high above his head, the young man shouted loudly that he would definitely become not just an adventurer, but a true hero, equal to the strongest fighters in the world. The sister realized that in real life her brother was not at all like the heroes from books. He seemed fragile, vulnerable, and often cried. He had no great artifact that would make him stronger, but in her eyes he forever remained the only hero. a group of brave adventurers led by the heroine Paludi boldly rushed into battle with a huge and bloodthirsty monster. They decisively drew their sharp blades, ready to repel the attack of any enemy. The monster relentlessly advanced on the team, wildly growling and baring its terrifying fangs and claws. The girls tried to calmly reassure the anxious Ruby, explaining that the enemy was quite small and easy to handle. Paludi confidently noted that real powerful monsters almost never appear near villages. They prefer to live far from human dwellings. However, the girl, gripping the sword hilt convulsively, was still clearly nervous and barely restrained the trembling in her body. Her body tensed with fear, her breathing was intermittent, and her heart pounded wildly seeing the recruit's condition. The group commander addressed her. The hero decisively said that such monsters are not the creatures a true hero should fear. Ruby lowered her gaze and shyly admitted that she was troubled by her obvious inexperience and feared the enemy's tricks. The recruit said that she used to often come here to play with the village children, and added that this place holds old good memories that evoke a bittersweet pleasant nostalgia. The woman asked with sympathy if the girl was worried about her younger brother who stayed at home. Ruby quietly said, "Not really," but her eyes said more than words. She smiled slightly, as if doubting herself. One of the adventurers in the group remarked that there are no strong monsters in this forest and wondered how children could play here, and another girl replied that she is always protected. She asked again who exactly protects her. Ruby smiled and proudly replied that he was a true hero. The sister was sweeping the yard and curiously asked her younger brother what he was doing here. Ratzu replied that from today he would become the sister's assistant on the farm. He was raised under the strict supervision of his mother, but now it was time to prove what he was capable of and get to work. The girl, handing him his old rusty sword, reminded him that he had forgotten something. She asked him if he wanted to become an adventurer. He hesitated, but finally agreed. Ruby noted that since he decided to become an adventurer, he had no time to waste on farming. The sister asked him to promise one important thing. If danger suddenly appeared, he must immediately run away. Ratzu realized how much he owed to his mother and Ruby. Walking along the forest path, he suddenly noticed the tracks of an adventurer's carriage. The young man firmly believed that he would definitely become an adventurer, no matter how far his older sister advanced. Immersed in memories of childhood adventures, the young man suddenly heard a strange noise nearby. From the dense thicket of bushes appeared a sinister root slowly approaching. Behind him suddenly grew a huge ancient tree. Turning around, the boy saw the threatening Trent before him and realized that he hadn't even felt it approach unnoticed. The ancient giant instantly wrapped its powerful roots around the boy's leg. Ratzu desperately tried to break free, but in vain the mighty tree roughly threw him back with a powerful blow of its roots. Grimacing in pain, the boy understood that he was in real danger, and the terrible monster was still making frightening sounds. The young man firmly gripped the sword's hilt and decisively rushed forward, remembering the promise to catch up with his sister. All scratched and beaten, he returned back to the village. There, the sisters sternly asked him if he had run away as they had agreed. The boy confidently confirmed that he had. The next morning, despite everything, the young man set out again to fight the same dangerous monster. The young warrior delivered a mighty sword strike directly at the roots of the ancient Trent, putting all his strength and determination into it. But luck turned away from him again. The sword was so dull that it was barely distinguishable from an ordinary wooden stick, and this incredibly irritated the boy. On the third day, the boy came again to fight the tree monster. The boys passing by looked at him in surprise, not understanding why he tried every day to overcome what seemed like a futile obstacle. And so the fourth day came, and the young heroes continued to fight the risen tree monster just as persistently. The fifth day came, but nothing changed. The young fighter gave all his strength to cope with the enemy, but success was barely noticeable. 3 years passed by. One day, 2 young girls were cheerfully chatting by the road, and one asked the other why she still hadn't left her native village for a better life, and the second thoughtfully admitted that she kept thinking about finding a suitable job. The first one sympathetically remarked that the capital was full of interesting vacancies, but their conversation was suddenly interrupted by a root of an old tree moving nearby. They were terribly frightened. A huge Trent grew before the girls, ready to attack, but Ratzu appeared nearby, bravely stood in their defense, and prepared to engage in battle. The boy dealt devastating damage to the giant tree with one quick and agile move. The young man explained to them that the monster had come close to the village, but now there was no danger and no one was hurt. The first girl reacted instantly. She released an arrow and hit the tree directly. The second girl sincerely rejoiced at her friend's victory over the monster and was happy for her success, while her companion turned to the boy, asked if he was injured, and sincerely thanked him for his support. 3 long years had passed since Ruby left her native village. Now Ratzu had only one thought: how close had he come to his goal to catch up with his sister? After 3 years of training, the result was only level 10. In despair and disappointment, he asked himself if he really had no talent for this. Thinking about his incapacity and feeling that he was falling behind his sister, the young man accidentally saw 2 boys gathering firewood and selling it to the peasants. One of the brothers mockingly asked Ratzu why he had trained for 3 years, not seeing the obvious futility of his efforts. The boy remembered his sister's words. She said she would patiently wait for his return. Tired of sitting on the ground and drowning in bitter thoughts about how far ahead his sister had gone and that he would never catch up with her, the young man fell asleep. Suddenly waking up, the young man saw that a child was in danger and immediately rushed to save her. He anxiously thought about that child, whether she had gotten lost here. Suddenly, a small, fragile girl appeared before him, like a younger Ruby, trembling with fear of the forest monsters. He clearly remembered an incident from childhood. His sister disappeared in the forest and almost became a victim of the forest monsters. The boy decided that he had to come to the rescue, and then suddenly, a small version of Ratzu fearlessly rushed straight at the enemy. She loudly commanded the monsters to stay away from the girl. His voice made the enemies nervous and scared. Little Ratzu instantly grabbed his sister's hand and pulled her out from under the threat. The young man realized that he was watching a memory from his childhood. Meanwhile, the child's version of the hero gently comforted the crying girl, assuring her that it was all over and the monsters were gone. The little child asked little Ruby to stop crying, but she only replied that she was not crying at all. Looking at his childhood self, who bravely defended his sister, the young man finally understood. They were both saved by a simple wooden stick. The little girl turned to him and decisively said that he was going to become a real cool hero. Looking with admiration, she added that she was eagerly awaiting that big day and would wait as long as necessary. Waking up, he suddenly realized that everything he had experienced was just a vivid dream. Taking the sword in his hands, Ratzu promised his sister to wait for him. He would definitely catch up with her. Getting up, the boy heard someone's anxious scream and thought that he was still in the world of dreams. Soon the young man was convinced that it was real and that he needed to hurry. Noticing a little girl nearby, he anxiously asked if she was okay. The boy saw a terrible monster in front of him and was helpless. He did not know how to defeat such a powerful creature and why it had appeared here at all. Demons stand out among other creatures by their high intelligence, like humans, whom the gods bless with sacred artifacts. Moreover, the powers of the dark gods endow them with special items. They are the sworn enemies of humanity. 2 familiar boys stood nearby and looked at each other with distrust, not believing that such a strong creature could appear in such a place. When they realized the threat, the brothers instantly jumped up and ran away. Ratzu desperately tried to stop them and explain his intentions, but they did not listen to him. They thought the smartest way was to quickly hide. The young man burst out in indignation and addressed them. Did they really not care to abandon the girl to be torn apart by the monster and just run away? The first said that all attempts to resist were futile, the enemy was a demon, and the second suggested calling the village guard, considering it the most important. The first added that victory over a human gives the demon new strength. It grows and hardens, as if humans become stronger after their victories. And the monster would easily deal with everyone, almost without effort. Ratzu exclaimed indignantly that while the girl waited for the guard's help, the demon would easily finish her off. After all, that young man had a special weapon that allowed him to engage in an uneven duel with such a creature. But he skeptically explained that the artifact he had was only one of the lower D ranks, and this significantly limited the chances of success in battle. The first shouted that the found item was not suitable for a serious fight, and the second insisted. If the guards were not warned in time, the safety of the settlement's residents would be at risk. After a brief quarrel, both suddenly appeared dead in sight. The young man cautiously armed himself and took position among the dense forest greenery, carefully observing the actions of the formidable enemy from afar. The little girl trembled with unbearable horror, feeling the inevitability of death. The stunned boy watched the tragedy unfold, overwhelmed with anxiety. Meanwhile, the monster said with contempt that drawing some power from such a worthless opponent was just a game for him, and added that it was time to die. Without hesitation, the brave young man burst out of the hiding place and ordered the demon to immediately retreat from the child. The creature slowly turned around, wondering what strange words were coming from among the trees. The hero did not back down. Again and again he repeated his ultimatum and demanded that the girl be left alone. The monster mockingly asked to repeat what was said once more, as if the hero's voice was too quiet, and it heard nothing. With a desperate battle cry, the young man rushed forward and again loudly demanded the release of the captive. With one movement of its huge palm, the monster stopped the clumsy strike of the teenager. The boy was left completely stunned. The demon chuckled and explained that at first it took the weapon for ordinary junk, but now realized it was a sacred treasure. This discovery made the monster burst into wild laughter. Deciding to prove its superiority, the creature proudly showed its artifact. It also decided to show what its sword was capable of. The young man froze with admiration, enchanted by the scene unfolding before him. The demon, ready to deliver the final blow, swung and released a wave of destructive energy that swept away everything around. Grinning ominously, the monster proudly declared that this energy was the true measure of his power. The girl was torn apart by grief, begging someone to save her. Ratzu tensely noted that the opponent had a gigantic potential, comparable to the monsters his brave sister risked fighting every day. The hero felt his own weakness in the face of absolute evil, and feverishly thought about how to delay the end to buy time and wait for reinforcements the guards. Meanwhile, a mysterious creature jumped out from behind and asked with malice where the boy's courage had gone. The monster greedily sought to destroy the hated boy, turning the killing into a ritual celebration. The beast threw the boy with incredible force, tossing him into the air and flinging him far from the battlefield. A deafening crack sounded, and immediately Ratzu let out a heart-wrenching scream. He shuddered from unbearable pain. He, speaking on behalf of the monster, knew well that he would not receive a powerful blessing from this little girl. The forest smelled of people, a clear sign that someone lived nearby, so there must be a village not far away. The monster decisively set off for the village to gather many blessings there. He decided to destroy all the people in the village. The demon decided to first deal with the nearest minor enemies. But suddenly Ratzu exploded with a piercing scream, shattering the calm with sharp cries. The boy instantly rushed forward, tightly gripping the weapon with both hands. And then he lunged at the demon, ready for anything to save the child. But the monster turned out to be more agile with one lightning-fast move. He easily deflected the enemy's strike and defended against the attack. The demon considered the young man's strike worthy of praise. He showed courage and skill. But the outcome of the fight was predetermined, and everything would soon end. He told the heroic fish that they would meet later, and the boy desperately parried the blows of the sharp blade. The young man's sword began to slowly crumble, turning into a pile of fragments right in his hands. The creature's terrifying charge threw Ratzu aside with such force that he flew far away. The boy, covered in bruises and bloodstains, fell to the ground, mouth wide open and convulsively gasping for air. The demon indifferently said he would destroy him after dealing with the girl. Lying on the cold ground, the boy bitterly repented and asked Ruby to forgive him for once again failing to keep the promise he made to her. Guilt and shame tore his soul apart. Two most important promises were not fulfilled, and the first turned into defeat. The second, connected with the desire to catch up with the girl, turned out to be no less unreal. Only one thought warmed his heart. Perhaps this wonderful girl did not hold a grudge against him at all. He clearly felt, now only he could protect this child. The demon turned and saw a boy who had almost lost his strength, but was ready to sacrifice himself to save another. Ratzu loudly shouted that he was going to defeat the enemy. This was followed by a lightning-fast series of mutual attacks, filled with adrenaline and determination of both opponents. The sharp clang of a strike rang throughout the vicinity when two sharp blades collided with incredible force. Although he stood bravely, his blade turned out to be much weaker, relentlessly lost its shape, and crumbled into small fragments. The huge monster could not understand why the weapon of the cheeky youth suddenly changed shape, and this simultaneously irritated and troubled him. Ratzu's hands transformed into the cursed magical blade cursed S-rank, which gave huge bonuses. Divine Power 500, Strength 500, Agility 500, Endurance 500, Resistance 500, Magical Power 500, and the owner also gained the ability to use artifact synthesis. The monster was completely bewildered. After all, both the artifact and the boy himself had strangely transformed. Only now did the young hero feel the full greatness of this moment, when the true face of his faithful ally previously hidden behind the mask of a weak weapon was revealed to him. And with this revelation, the path to victory became clearer and closer. Energy surged like a turbulent current and filled every muscle, every nerve, every part of the young hero's body, and the feeling of strength and absolute confidence burst from his chest, giving him power for the decisive battle. Without hesitation, the demon rushed forward and launched a lightning-fast attack. Despite the threatening power of the attack, the boys skillfully and calmly held back the aggressive rush of the giants, taking the blow with the slightest effort. But the giant creature was incredibly displeased when the youth looked at it confidently and evaluatively, piercing it with a gaze from head to toe. The monster sternly demanded to be told everything honestly that was known, and to stop looking at him with such eyes. Ratzu remembered that he had talked about this from the very beginning. The youth, with a sudden, lightning-fast, and decisive attack, cut through the giant's flesh so deeply that a deep wound remained across the entire front part of his gigantic body. Despite reproaches and warnings, his enormous size and wild nature did not allow him to grasp the true meaning of the conversation. The youth again tried to reach the enemy's consciousness, persistently repeating a simple phrase to leave the child alive and not to approach him. What happened did not fit into his head at all, and the youth was completely confused, not understanding what exactly caused such a turn of events. When the ancient artifact revealed its true form, waves of pure energy burst out of it, penetrating the owner's body and filling him with supernatural power that far exceeded his previous level. Although the situation seemed critical, the boy knew one thing for sure. He would not allow himself to give up. Every cell of his body rejected the very possibility of defeat and persistently sought a way out of this difficult situation. A colossal creature ruled the battlefield, looming behind the young man, ready to deliver another devastating blow. An angry voice rolled across the battlefield, accusing the young brave man of madness, and the absurdity of his actions for such senseless aggression led only to one thing: the strongest irritation of the fierce demon. The boy's previous strike, though causing pain, was disdainfully called by the demon merely a minor scratch. The demon roared, "Get out of my life!" and immediately unleashed a torrent of powerful blows one after another on the opponent, trying to break his resistance. The powerful strikes rained down, leaving deep wounds and forcing Rats to retreat further and further. Unafraid, the young warrior held his ground and decisively launched into a series of deadly attacks again, subjecting the demon to the harshest trials. And after each precise strike, the huge monster emitted terrible screams and writhed in unbearable pain. Suddenly, the creature found itself in thick clouds of black smoke, blazing with bright flames. These dark tongues of fire burst from the magically charged sword and from the numerous heavy blows of the young hero. While the young man, admiring his abilities with enthusiasm, felt his confidence in his own strength growing, the monster was shocked. The mystical black flame, which he had considered lost forever, had returned to the world. A sudden impulse made Ratzu tightly grip the ancient blade and shoot his hand forward at lightning speed. The sharp tip pierced directly into the demon's vulnerable spot and passed through the entire torso. Stunned by defeat, the monster could not understand for a long time how some vile thing turned out to be stronger than his power. And when the truth became obvious, the demon's body began to flicker with a dim light, gradually evaporating and dispersing until it finally disappeared from reality. The boy sighed with relief, pleased that the hard struggle was finally over, when suddenly the sky was covered with gray clouds and large raindrops began to fall to the ground, creating a feeling of cleansing after the experienced tension. The boy fell to the wet ground, physically and mentally exhausted, and the little girl he had saved from the monster rushed to him with quick steps. She anxiously asked if her brother was feeling well. Ratzu began to regain consciousness. The boy immediately came to and realized that he was lying in his own bed at home, surrounded by familiar warmth and comfort. His mother entered the room, worried, asked if her son had really woken up, and added that the guards had brought him the very same ones they found in the forest. The boy froze in thought, recalling how the guards found him and how a mysterious voice gently called, "Brother." The young man was about to ask about the fate of the girl, but his mother instantly interrupted him and gently assured him that she was fine. The boy sighed with relief, and his mother continued the story. For 3 long years, she dreamed of seeing her son alive and healthy, no longer risking his life in battles with dangerous creatures. The woman's parents once lived in poverty and barely made ends meet, until they took up farming there. Stability and prosperity then came. She was glad she had not stopped her son from fighting dangerous monsters. Eventually, the girl he saved thanked him, crying with happiness. Her eyes filled with pride as she confessed that every day she sees her son grow. He not only gains physical strength, but also learns to make wise decisions, shows courage and kindness, becoming a true man. The young man's heart trembled with overwhelming gratitude and respect, and hot tears nearly appeared in his eyes because he was moved by the sincere message from his beloved mother. She turned to her son with an important question. She wanted to understand if he intended to take the exams required to officially become a professional adventurer. Ratzu agreed that the exam was necessary. Only this way could one officially become an adventurer. But he knew he could not leave his native walls. His attention and help were vital for his mother, who needed support and protection. That woman unexpectedly came closer, tightly pressed her son to her chest, and whispered to him to make the one most important promise. She begged the boy to spare his life and not go ahead of her. We must help ordinary people, protect them, and stand between them and any threats. With tears on his cheeks, the boy promised aloud to heed his mother's advice, and confessed that he was proud of her and infinitely grateful for such a wonderful mother. She also added a whole list of conditions: to visit her twice a year, to save the earned money, to watch his diet, and not to go to bed with a full stomach. The young man involuntarily asked if all this should be considered one promise. 3 years have passed since Ruby left. Finally, Ratzu's adventure begins. The goal is White Rondo, the city of young adventurers. The boy says he will definitely pass the exam and become an adventurer. The youth's sword returned again, and he could not understand why it was covered with rust again. He felt awkward. The boys who fled the field of that memorable duel made him a scabbard as an apology, and receiving such a strange gift, he felt both pride and embarrassment at the same time. Ratzu is determined to get to the details of what mysterious skill of hidden potential is in his magical sword, the secret ability, evolution, which can radically change the course of battle and open new possibilities for the blade. To activate the evolution ability, first you need to release the true form of the sacred artifact hidden in the blade. Only then will it be possible to awaken a special effect, the one that ignites the fighting spirit. The boy suddenly realized the concept of fighting spirit manifests when he is in complete despair and desperately fights a powerful demon. The young man constantly repeated to himself that he would definitely become a true adventurer and a heroic defender, ready to stand up for his mother and beloved sister Ruby. These thoughts gave him the strength to move forward, overcoming any obstacles on the way to his dreamed goal. Suddenly his blade transformed. Taking on a completely different shape, the sword became even more threatening and majestic. Suddenly, Ratzu realized that he could independently make the blade change shape by activating the skill in an unusual way. And this discovery filled him with confidence. Now he knew he could control the power of the blade, not only in moments of danger but also consciously, directing it in the right direction. The young man, looking at the changed saber, thoughtfully noticed that it really looked like an artifact of some ancient demon. His voice was calm, but his eyes showed surprise and caution, mixed with curiosity. He carefully compared his new blade with the weapon of the demon he had defeated earlier and found an impressive similarity. The shape of the blade, the patterns on the handle, and even the light emanating from them were almost identical. The guard immediately brought both swords. He could not understand which one belonged to the hero. Confusion broke out until the young man realized and took his blade. It turned out that the boy now had the ability to see the characteristics of different artifacts. Using it, he examined the weapon of the defeated monster and learned that this sword was the great sword of Black Flame with an impressive rank B. The young man did not dare to leave the found sword at home and took it with him. But he realized that fighting with someone else's artifact was reckless. Each such item has its own nature and connection with the owner, which cannot be established in a moment. Suddenly the blade tore from his hands and swiftly flew upward, like a living creature trying to break free from earthly chains. Then the second saber, following the first, rose into the air. The boy froze in complete astonishment, not understanding what caused such unexpected behavior of the two artifacts. Stunned by what was happening, he tried to figure out what led to this fantastic event. He was truly shocked when he saw how the blades of the defeated demons slowly dissolved and merged into his weapon. This incredible sight caught the young man by surprise, causing a wave of confusion and anxiety. With a sharp movement, the sword bit into the ground, and the young man froze in complete bewilderment. He could not comprehend what had happened and why the weapon itself behaved so strangely. The boy carefully lifted his cursed S-rank sword, feeling that something had seriously changed within it. The blade seemed different. It radiated an unfamiliar aura and attracted attention with its new appearance. He was truly shocked. A new skill appeared in his sword's stats, Black Flame, borrowed from the defeated demon, and the blade also learned to use magic and gained the function of synthesizing sacred types of weapons, significantly expanding its combat capabilities. The youth looked confused at the appearance of the new skill and had no idea what power the synthesis ability held. So he eagerly wanted to study this phenomenon more deeply to better understand the potential of his unique weapon. Artifact synthesis is the ability to create a sacred artifact by fueling it with the blessing of an evil god as material for enhancement. And as soon as it receives the magic of these synthesized artifacts, it can use it, but only on sacred treasures that are not yet equipped. The boy sincerely considered synthesis an incredibly unique skill. After all, the demon he recently defeated possessed the magic of the Black Flame, and now this very magic successfully merged directly into his personal artifact, enhancing its abilities and granting access to a new type of attack. He also believed that, despite the modest overall status of 500 units, his sword looked like a real cheat find with much more powerful capabilities and advantages compared to ordinary items of the same level. Suddenly, among the dense thickets, a familiar gnarled root of an old tree appeared. But soon it became clear that this was not just a simple tree, but a whole army of giant living creatures, treants, who came out to meet the traveler. Their massive trunks swayed threateningly, and they howled terribly. The boy reacted instantly. He pushed off the ground with his feet and jumped back, avoiding the unexpected threat. Skillfully dodging the enemy's attack, he confidently grabbed the proven blade in his hand, ready to burst into battle and defend against the dangers lurking at every step. The boy respectfully addressed his sword and asked it to grant him mastery of the black flame magic. He decisively directed a powerful energy charge straight at the advancing enemies, hoping to stop their attack and buy some time for maneuver. A huge surge of dark energy struck the crowd of treants, instantly igniting the wood and turning the mighty trunks into blazing torches. The magical flame devoured everything around, leaving behind a scorched wasteland and scattering the army of attacking trees. Blinding flashes of light one after another destroyed the bodies of ancient treants, and their painful cries echoed through the forest. He felt genuine joy and relief, convinced that the magic of the black flame truly works and is now always at hand whenever he needs it. But in the height of joy, a sudden sharp blow shook his body, deprived him of the feeling of joy, and threw him into acute pain and anxiety. He convulsively grabbed his head with his hands, feeling unbearable pain and not understanding at all what was happening. His head seemed to be bursting, his consciousness blurred, and nearby a tearing screech of wood sounded. The head was bursting with terrible pain, becoming almost unbearable. Ratzu, deciding to find out the cause of his torment, glanced at his sword, trying to understand if his condition was related to recent changes in the weapon. It turned out the young man quickly understood the terrible truth. The cause of the unbearable headache was a curse placed on his favorite weapon. The tree came to life and decided to attack the boy to grab him with its wooden arms. The young man lay on the ground, writhing in unbearable pain, and realized that in such a position it was impossible to avoid a fatal attack. No strength left to fight, and hope slowly faded along with consciousness. Suddenly someone strictly ordered him not to move, and at that moment the wind raised pillars of dust that scattered all over the area. It was a girl who covered him with her huge shield and anxiously asked if he was okay. The boy, barely regaining consciousness, weakly asked who had saved him. Having emerged from the dark forest and stepped onto the streets of the city of Rondo, the young man realized that this was exactly how he had imagined the city of young adventurers. Lively streets, noisy markets, an atmosphere of constant adventure and anticipation of great achievements. When he looked at the Adventurers Guild building, its grandeur and scale impressed him. It truly seemed magnificent. This is where his path as a true traveler begins, full of trials, discoveries, and dizzying adventures that will forever change his fate. Not wanting to delay the start of the mission, he resolutely opened the heavy wooden door and boldly entered the guild building, preparing to face his future. Before his eyes appeared a large crowd of people, and the air was filled with energy and anticipation of new adventures. Suddenly, the young man realized with surprise that everyone gathered here were participants of the adventurer's exam. This news shocked him a little because there were far more candidates than he initially expected. Ratzu had the common rumor spinning in his head. Supposedly, the chance to pass the exam is constantly less than 1, and if you fail, you have to patiently wait half a year for the next attempt, which was extremely undesirable for an ambitious novice adventurer. Despite everything, the boy sincerely believed in his own strength and was determined to overcome any difficulties to become a full member of the Adventurers' Brotherhood and finally start a real career as an adventurer. He firmly declared that he would definitely become an adventurer like his sister Ruby. But suddenly, his memory brought up the image of the girl who saved him and asked if he was okay after the monster attack in the forest. She decisively made it clear that the boy should trust her with the situation and immediately run away. The boy thought in surprise, who was this girl, and did some experienced adventurer rush to his rescue, risking their life to save a stranger? He remembered how he looked with surprise at her huge shield, which seemed unusually strong and bore signs of a rare artifact that surpassed ordinary protective items. With great relief, he felt the headache disappear as suddenly as it had appeared, and his lost strength began to return, restoring his former vigor and readiness to act further. Ratzu noticed that his old rusty sword had regained its usual appearance, losing the traces of the recent transformation and becoming as inconspicuous as before. He thought that the cursed magical sword was the true form of this mysterious artifact. The boy quickly grabbed his faithful blade and decisively rushed into danger, preparing to show what he was capable of in an honest fight. The stranger tried to hold him back, doubting that the boy with just a simple rusty sword could withstand that threat. She wanted to prevent a futile attempt, considering his efforts doomed. The boy instantly cut the huge tren in half, and this truly shocked the girl. She could not believe her eyes, seeing how the ordinary rusty sword transformed into something incredibly dangerous, becoming a terrible, ominous artifact whose nature she could not comprehend. The girl asked with sympathy if the boy felt well. He said yes, and sincerely thanked her for the timely support and rescue. Ratzu admitted that using this special artifact exhausted him. The traveler noticed that at the decisive moment, the boy's sword changed for a moment and revealed powers and signs that no one had seen before. Suddenly, the boy realized he had not introduced himself yet and said, "My name is Ratzu Suten." Hesitating a little, the girl loudly replied that her name was Karatsu, and she blushed slightly from the unexpected frankness. She said she had to leave and asked what his plans were. The boy explained that he would rest a little to recover his strength after what he had experienced. It was time to say goodbye, and the heroine smiled warmly, keeping in memory that meeting which taught everyone to value friendship and mutual assistance. Saying goodbye to the girl, the boy suddenly deeply realized that someone had been helping him all his life. But this lasted only until today. Since then, the young man vowed to become a support and shield for all his dear people and dedicate his life to serving justice and protecting the weak. And he suddenly realized that there were so many people around with special artifacts, and he learned to recognize them at a glance, intuitively determining what abilities each item had. Suddenly, an outraged voice broke out from the crowd. Someone complained about the rudeness and inattentiveness of people disturbing the peace. It turned out that a little girl had come across guild visitors. Accidentally finding herself in the thick of the human flow, people looked at her with surprise and anxiety, not understanding why such a tiny child was in this complex and dangerous place. Climbing onto the stage, the girl loudly announced that she was Janet Chamu, an examiner. Although she looked like a child, she emphasized that she had already undergone the blessing ceremony, confirming her age and the right to hold the position of an adult examiner. One of the boys in the crowd indignantly stated that he considered it absurd for an employee to examine a child. Janet warned, "Today's test will take place in the dangerous Nanashiki forest, and candidates will have to find a special doll that she specially prepared for the competition." The participants understood that they needed to find an ordinary toy doll, but for many this seemed too simple and primitive, and they began to doubt the seriousness of the proposed test. However, the examiner said with a bitter smile that the forest is home to a bunch of cunning kobolds, known for stealing various things from people. So she assumed that the thicket had long since become the prey of these greedy little thieves after the dolls. Ratzu felt a chill of fear. The exam territory was a real danger zone teeming with monsters, and upon learning that the test would require both finding items and fighting, he realized that the illusion of simplicity was dispelled. The adventurer exam would not be easy. The girl added that besides kobolds, other dangerous creatures live in the forest, so the responsibility for their safety lies solely with the candidates themselves. She also warned that the number of dolls being sought is limited. The boy realized that the exam would turn into a real competition among all participants, a fight for rare dolls. Fierce rivalry and competition would become the heart of the event, and the winner would be the one who could show the best leadership qualities and survival skills. Janet warned, "Killing rivals is a crime, but the young will have to fight renegades." Replaying her words, the boy tried to imagine how cruel and unpredictable such clashes could be. Renegades are people who abuse the power of their artifacts and turn to the dark side of the law. The exam participants will have to not only pass the search trial, but also engage in battle with such dangerous opponents. The girl continued explaining, "Cooperation among participants is allowed. Future adventurers can form teams and pass the trials together, but each group must find dolls for all its members." Ratzu was not sure if he could find a suitable partner for the joint venture at all, because among those who aspired to the title of adventurer, thoughts, actions, and ambitions were too different. Janet finished the briefing, sharply emphasizing that there are exactly 2 hours to complete the task, and at that moment the exam officially began. Suddenly one boy shouted to another, enthusiastically praised his artifact, and suggested joining forces, becoming allies to overcome difficulties together. They firmly shook hands and solemnly promised each other that they would definitely overcome all obstacles and succeed in passing this difficult exam. Ratzu was worried whether someone would dare to walk side by side with him, because his sword, when activated, took on a sinister appearance, like a demonic artifact. Suddenly he heard someone's loud scream that caught his attention and instantly put him on alert. The voice was shouting at the familiar girl Deo, who fervently begged to be accepted into the group, and the boy immediately guessed. Probably she was also participating in the contest and needed the support of friends to increase her chances of success. The The girl was bombarded with a barrage of sharp remarks from another participant who could not understand why she should unite with such a person who was clearly useless and could not help the common cause. Seeing Deo's humiliation, Ratzu remembered how he was often told that he would never become a hero or adventurer. His skills and determination were rejected as supposedly lacking qualification, and this memory only deepened his sympathy for the girl standing before a hostile audience. The girl critic did not calm down, sharply reproaching. True adventurers exterminate demons, and her shield artifact was completely powerless even against one demon. Does she really believe that with such mediocre weapons she can become an adventurer? The boy nervously clenched his fists, restraining his anger. The candidate who criticized continued to insist that the exam was about killing monsters and doubted whether Dea would earn even $1 in a real competition. She disdainfully added that if other candidates refused to communicate with her, one should not expect their help just because they come from the same village. She tried to object, but the girl, losing her head, screamed and raised her hand to hit Dea. At the last moment, Ratzu intercepted her hand with a lightning-fast movement, thus averting trouble. Grabbing her hand, the boy met the gaze of the offended girl. On her face was clearly readable a mixture of irritation and hostility. Her eyes flashed with bolts of indignation, and her lips were tightly pressed, revealing an internal struggle of feelings. The young man sharply intervened and stated that such behavior was unacceptable and crossed all bounds of decency. And the aggressor, noticing the intervention of a stranger, angrily looked at him and demanded an explanation of who he was. Dea joyfully recognized her friend, and the critical girl instantly understood that they were well acquainted. Displeased by the intervention of a third person, she rudely addressed the boy and asked what he wanted here. The boy warmly looked at his girl and invited her to join his team. The offender became angry at the heard proposal, considering it absurd and foolish. Her face twisted with displeasure, her voice trembled with indignation, as if accusing the boy of lacking common sense and seriousness. Ratzu gently explained that he saw the perfect combination of their talents and skills, so he invited the friend to join him. Adding that he was glad to see his savior again, he caused deep surprise and irritation in her offender. The boys from the neighboring team mockingly noted that she was going to work with a participant who could not even defeat a simple monster, and added that the artifact of that boy was so bad that it was completely covered with rust. Janet enthusiastically reported that this year was abundant with talented children who promise a great future. Among them are both extraordinarily gifted and those who could become dangerous. And for those students prone to risk, the organization is ready to extend a helping hand. 30 minutes have already passed since the start of the exam. The boys noticed that the forest was strangely calm. The sun rays played on the leaves, casting 7 colors, like the glow of a gemstone. If monsters did not rule here, the forest would have long become a favorite place for travelers. Ratzu hoped it would be wonderful if they did not have to fight monsters, but it turned out not everything is so simple. They need to find kobolds as soon as possible. The boy pondered. Maybe the girl was shy to work next to him. She felt insecure and uneasy. Meanwhile, she quietly tried to say something, but the words got stuck in her throat and did not let her clearly and understandably express her feelings. Dea hesitantly asked what exactly he meant when he said they were perfect for each other, and in her voice, slightly scared, there was a sense of inner turmoil. When he saw her embarrassed expression, the boy realized that she had misinterpreted his words and took friendly attention for romantic interest. The young man tried to explain in simple words why they were a perfect couple, emphasizing how their strengths complemented each other. But suddenly the girl interrupted him with a sharp scream, warning about the appearance of a large monster. She reacted lightning fast, raised a sturdy shield, and reliably covered Ratzu, protecting him from possible enemy attacks. The boy focused on the attack, confidently drew his faithful sword, and was ready to use all available skills and abilities to effectively resist the enemy. After another defeated monster, the young man realized a simple truth. The girl has his back, so he can fully concentrate on the fight and destroy enemies. Such interaction becomes a perfect symbiosis that gives maximum efficiency in fighting dangers. He explained that frequent use of the cursed sword causes severe headaches, so the boy can use it only for about half an hour. If you exceed the limit, you risk going insane. Under the reliable protection of his girlfriend, the boy could fight freely, thinking only about victory, but Dea asked in surprise whether he really believed that she could protect him. She was already used to being a victim. She often cried, and peers constantly mocked her. Because of this, most boys refused to take her on the team, considering her too weak and useless in team competitions. He stepped closer and insisted that although her artifact did not stand out in combat power, it was her good heart and desire to help that made her a special and valuable person. and she listened to these words with open surprise, clearly not expecting such an assessment of her merits. The young man summed up the speech. That is why she is so strong. She knows how to overcome any difficulties and achieve success despite the circumstances. Suddenly, the critical lady cast a powerful Shiden spell and turned her attention to the opposing team. She attacked them so fiercely that the line between competitive fighting and outright confrontation blurred. The aggressive girl turned out to be Aimsty, the same one who had previously publicly humiliated Dea, saying that she was only fit to be a useless team member. Today, she decided to put an end to this confrontation. The boy quickly assessed the situation and seriously asked the girls what plans their team had regarding further actions in this conflict. Aimsty confidently stated that the rules allowed them to fight renegades for dolls. When the young man noticed that their team had no dolls, the leader of the opposing team responded with a smug smile. Behind the boys, a monster was rapidly approaching, ready to attack at any moment, and the danger grew, forcing the young warriors to tense up and prepare for the inevitable clash. Dea instantly raised her sturdy shield and reliably covered them from the blow, and the boy immediately recognized the attacker, a Cobalt, the main opponent of this stage of the exam. The girl defended with all her might, repelling numerous blows from the enraged monster, which rushed forward with inexhaustible aggression and hatred. The shield trembled from the weight of each blow and almost broke under the beast's pressure. The young man, who was closely watching everything, suddenly noticed an important detail and turned to his comrade. The Cobalt had one of the needed dolls. Amnesty declared with a superior smile that the rivals want to appropriate the doll they are hunting, cynically calling them simple thieves seeking to exploit others' achievements. However, she, albeit reluctantly, admitted that fate had decided otherwise, and firmly ordered her assistant Spinal and Laz to immediately rush at the enemy, confident that the battle would end successfully. The boy instantly understood. It was all a setup, deliberately arranged by the rivals to drag them into an unnecessary fight and knock them out of the race for the prize places. Spinal and Blazu demanded to be given two unique magical techniques, Firesicle and Icicle, pushing the other team into conflict and setting both sides against each other. Daya's shield took a powerful blow. A dull metallic sound filled her ears, and the girl tensed, trying with all her might to withstand the attack. The rivals, looking at each other in confusion, could not understand why the shield withstood the attack and remained whole and undamaged. Meanwhile, her teammate asked her friend if everything was all right and received an affirmative answer. The Cobalt rushed into attack, but the young man drew his sword and resolutely declared that he would not allow further abuse and would personally defend his companion. Aimsty cast the magical spell Shiden and unleashed a destructive attack directly at the enemies. She sought to end the clash quickly and prove her absolute superiority. However, Dyer again took a stand in defense, and the attacker smiled, saying that such a move was predictable. But added defense will not bring victory if the opponents only try to avoid clashes and make no active moves. The friend anxiously asked about the condition of his girl, who was under attack again, and she confidently reassured him, confirming that her artifact was working and fully suitable for further defense. The rival was annoyed that their team, unable to defeat the monster on their own, stubbornly and convincingly said that everything was fine, and it seemed their cohesion was truly an example of how a team works as one. Aimsty sarcastically said that it was absurd to hope to become an adventurer with only a simple shield and a rusty sword, and asked the rivals to stop trying to convince her otherwise. Don't make me laugh. Suddenly, the Cobalt sharply turned and attacked the girl, while her companions tried to warn her of the danger, asked her to be careful and stay calm, begged the monster to voluntarily return the stolen doll and leave. Ratzu's sword suddenly began to revert to its original form, acquiring the features of a true mystical weapon, while the leader of the opposing team, sensing danger, decisively ordered Spinel and Lazu to turn around and survey the space behind them. The young man skillfully and swiftly dealt with the Cobalt, causing genuine surprise and admiration in both girls watching him. Aimsty, gripped by panic, exclaimed that her companion's artifacts were level C. She found it hard to understand how the boy managed to simultaneously defeat two strong opponents and remain unharmed, and she wildly guessed who this brave newcomer was who had turned the entire course of the battle. Ratzu coldly reminded that he was also a candidate for the title of adventurer, like Aimsty and Dea, and emphasized that if the opponents had his friend's shield, they could have successfully blocked his attack and avoided defeat. Developing the theme of cooperation, the boy suggested that by joining forces with his companion, their team could effectively block any enemy attacks. However, the leader of that team interrupted him and asked him to be quiet and stop being so selfish, saying that there is no reliable information. The boy gently offered the wounded girls to repair the damaged artifacts in the church and promised to take them to the city. This proposal caused genuine surprise and distrust in the former rivals, accustomed to harsh competition and intrigue. The boy did not give up. He insisted that although the exam was only a formality, his conscience hurt because of the damaged artifacts, but Amesty rejected his offer. Three girls go deeper into the forest, moving further away from the heroes, when suddenly Dea shouts at Amesty, but she does not even look back and continues walking. Ratzu moves away from the girl and heads to the doll. Bends down and picks it up. The man turns his head and looks at his friend Dea. The boy stands silently, looking at the doll. Suddenly an idea occurs to him. He turns back to the girl and says that now they have one doll and now she can become a traveler, but the girl silently stands with her back to him. Suddenly Ratzu notices. Dea's crying bitterly, tears rolling down her cheeks. The girl, in a sad mood, told the man that it was truly impossible for everything to become like before again. The man silently looked at her, then asked what had happened to her. Dea watches as three girls walk away, and with a smile tells the boy that they were once childhood friends in their village, and that Amesty taught her a lot. The girl says that Amesty helped her in everything, both in studies and in training. She says that Amesty was like a sister to her. The girls behind Amesty whisper to each other indignantly, how dare this Pankatsu behave like that with their artifacts. They say they wanted to be the best in this exam, but the girl pays no attention to them. Amesty is very angry. She thinks that now it should be her turn, because she found a way to run fast, learn not to lose in battle, and even believes that she learned to study effectively. The girl knows that she tried harder than everyone else because she wanted to become better and make friends with everyone. Amesty understands. If she becomes a better person, she will never be alone. The girl extended her hand with a bracelet and said that it was a Shiden B-level bracelet. Mest's friends enthusiastically praised her, saying she was the best and had the best artifact, and little Dea also enthusiastically greeted her friend. The girl gently strokes her little friend and thanks her, wishing her luck. She thanks again and admits that she must hurry. Amesty's friends also greet her friend. She thanks them and suddenly notices something behind her. She hears the girl asking the boy what he just said, and he replies that he barely heard, only that it was an A-level shield of immortality, and Amesty is surprised by what she heard. Suddenly she notices her friend on the stage with this rare artifact. Dea tries to justify herself, but in the end only asks Amesty for forgiveness. The girl, looking at her friend, does not understand what she means by saying sorry. Amesty does not understand why Dea has an artifact of rank A and she has one of rank B. She wonders where her life went wrong and whether all her efforts were in vain. Dea looks at her with sincere pity, but the girl still does not understand why she should feel sorry for the man who took everything from her. Amesty emerges from her memories and hears her friends apologizing. She asks what happened, and they reply that the artifacts are destroyed and now they do not know what to do. Amesty puts her hand on her chest and confidently declares that she will quickly resolve everything and pass this exam. She says that they will become the best adventurers. The girl looks at her friends and thanks them for always being there. The girls, standing in the middle of the forest, were lively talking about why this interests them, and who that swordsman was at all, when suddenly they noticed that his rusty artifact unexpectedly changed. One of the girls laughed and said that her friend was so scared then, to which the interlocutor added that Spinel almost cried. And Amesty warmly smiles at her friends and says that it is time for them to go. Suddenly the girl noticed a suspicious aura behind her friends, and frightened, sharply shouted for them to dodge. She was worried about them. The girls dodge, but suddenly huge claws strike them. The girls fall to the ground, holding their wounded arms. They do not understand what happened when suddenly Amesty appears before them, hiding them behind her back and protecting them. Suddenly a cat woman with ears and a tail appeared, nervously laughing. She licked the blades with a cat's tongue and said that this was a big disappointment. She thought they would notice her earlier, but their intuition failed. Amesty was gripped by horror. A demon stands before her, and Dea turns to her friend, begging to be friends again as before, and says she wants to go on adventures with her. The boy turned to the girl's friend and said that she does not need to return to the past. Dea, not understanding, asked again, and he replied that they should become travelers together. The boy says that from now on she can be his girlfriend like a sister. And the girl, pressing her hands to herself, asks again if it is really possible to remain just friends. Ratzu clenched her fist and exclaimed joyfully that now she is not the sister who follows behind, but a friend who stands beside. The girl smiled sincerely and, laughing, thanked the boy. The girl sincerely admits that she wants to become her friend. While the boys were talking among themselves, the demon seriously wounded Amesty. The girl falls to the ground, breathing heavily, and her friends worry about her in horror. The demon, sitting on a tree and making himself invisible, smiles and says that this is an unexpected gift for her after all. It was the adventurers who came to the forest where she was resting. The demon said with pleasure that this is a wonderful place for hunting full of tasty adventurers. The girl, looking threateningly ahead, thought that Spinel and Lizu would hardly be able to fend off his attacks, because he also knows how to become invisible. She realized that the fact that she appeared exactly at the moment of the attack could mean while the skill is active, she cannot move actively. The girl came up with a plan. When suddenly she rushed from her place straight at the demon and launched an attack. The Catwoman was stunned by what she saw. She clearly did not expect this. Mesty turns to her friends and says that she will hold him back. But for now, they need to run. The girls are horrified and do not understand what she means, because they would never have agreed to that. The girl screams and orders them to run. She says she cannot fight to protect them, and if they do not escape, they will all be killed. Suddenly, to the right of the girl, a demon appears and pierces her shoulder with a blade. Mesty screams in pain and surprise. The girl, feeling unbearable pain from the demon, remembers Dea. Ratzu and Dea walk through the forest, looking around. Suddenly, the boy turns to the girl and, suspecting something, asks if she is okay, and Dea silently, thoughtfully looks away to the side. The girl, very upset, says that she has a bad feeling and decides she must go back. Mesty, exhausted and badly wounded, barely tries to stand up. Her friends are wildly worried, calling her and asking if she is okay. The demon, watching all this, is just amused, and Amesty, turning back to her friends, says that everything is fine, it's just a scratch, asks them not to worry and to run quickly. But the girls refuse and insist that they will not leave her alone. The girl sits with her back to them and, without looking back, shouts loudly for them to run away. Her friends look at her with pity and despair. Not daring to argue any longer, the girls believed their friend and fled through the forest, and the demoness raised her blades, and with a wide smile said that it was all in vain. She would catch up with them and destroy them. To this, Mesty rises, spreading her arms, and boldly says that it is not so simple. She noticed the demon's weakness. Suddenly, the cat girl disappears from the girl's sight in an instant, and she marvels at her speed. The long tail of the cat demon wrapped around her neck. Amesty is frightened and grabs the tail, trying to break free, while the demon raises his hands and just laughs. The girl does not understand where he gets such speed. The demon squeezes Mesty's neck even tighter, smiles slyly, and asks if she really means that during the attack she has to come out of invisibility. What she hears makes the girl very nervous, and she clings tighter to the demon's tail to avoid suffocating. The demon approaches, pressing the blades to the girl's neck. She says that at that moment she realized the girl is a great catch, but she has speed that compensates for it, and adds that she means she and the twins will not be able to escape, and she will destroy them. Amesty clenches her fist. She understands that she must buy time as long as possible. She asks the demon why she attacks people, and he, holding the girl by the chin, looks at her in surprise. The demon says that they are blessed when they kill people, and people are blessed when they kill demons. Catwoman pierced the girl's skin and said that there is another reason besides this. The demon, scratching the girl's skin, says that he loves to play with people, and asks the girl to cry and beg him to save her life. The girl narrowed her eyes, looking at her. The demon says that she is ignoring her because it's boring, and adds, since the girl doesn't want to talk, it's time to end the game, to which Amesty agrees, and the demon froze in surprise. The girl clenches her fist, accumulating maximum magical power. She sharply swings her hand, aiming at the demon, using her sheet to the fullest, and a huge lightning bolt pierces the demon. Mesty waved his hand, and the demon flew away as fast as possible. The girl holds her hand in front of her and sighs deeply, looks ahead, and realizes that she didn't manage to buy that girl some time. Suddenly she hears the demon say that her true speed is this lightning, and the girl is stunned because she did not expect to hear his voice again. The smoke cleared, and an electrified demon burst out, who said that the same attribute will not work on her because her magic is dark lightning. The girl is surprised and frightened. Is this a real demon? Suddenly Catwoman jumps up and rushes to the girl. Amnesty stretches out her hand to defend herself, but the demon pierces her hand with his blades. The girl is scared by what she saw. The demon delivers a heavy blow to the girl. She screams in fear and pain, and he, waving his blades, says that she has a good scream and wants to hear it again. Catwoman says she will not stop harming the enemy. The girl is exhausted, holding on with her last strength in hopes that her friends will manage to escape. The demon is already ready to strike again. The girl is calm. She sees another way to deal with this because she remembers how persistently she trained in such cases and knows for sure the artifact can be recharged. But suddenly the girl realizes that she cannot cope. She is scared, and tears begin to roll down her cheeks. Sitting on the ground, she quietly calls for help. Suddenly Dea bursts forward at full speed, rushing to help her old friend. But the demon does not hesitate either. She swings the blade to treacherously strike the girl. But in a moment, a shield of dire appears before her. Catwoman flies back, surprised by what she sees. The girl raises her tired, tearful eyes and hears Daya respond that now everything is fine. Misty's eyes opened wide. She did not expect to see an old friend. Daya, holding the shield, decisively replied that she would protect her under any circumstances. The demon, seeing the girl, laughed loudly, thinking she was a new prey, but suddenly she heard someone shout, "Black flame!" And the demon turned pale from what she heard. Suddenly, a huge blow rushes toward her. Amsty's friends run to the boys, filled with anxiety for her and rats. The girl cried and sincerely apologized to her, to which Amsty asked why and what they were doing here, and the friend replied that there was no need to cry and to quickly give her first aid. Daya, still holding the shield, turns to the girls and says she had a bad feeling. She sees that the friends are already giving Amsty first aid. She remembers how the girls ran to her and the swordsman, pleading for help. Mesty, looking at her bandaged hand, admits that she managed to survive. The girl turns to her former friend and asks why they saved her, since she had spoken badly about her all her life. But before she could finish, Daya interrupts and with a warm smile says they saved them because they were friends. Amsty could not bear what she heard. Bitter tears ran down her cheeks, and suddenly from under the rubble a demon appeared and said that these were truly her friends. Anger begins to overwhelm the demon, and with a nervous smile she says she wants to see not tears of peace, but tears of pain. Suddenly the Catwoman with a wild face rushed forward, and running up, asked what would happen if she tore her friend apart right in front of her. But suddenly Ratzu appears right in front of her, parries the strike, and instantly counters with his own. The demon doesn't even have time to blink. The demon, parrying his sword with her blades, sternly tells him not to stand in her way and asks permission to do this. Catwoman sharply accelerates, swinging her blades, and grimly says she will gift the magic of the dark storm. But the boy parries her strike, which pushes the demon back a little. He notices that the demon is extremely fast and says he is endowed with the magic of black flame, and his sword is wrapped in a black aura in the form of tongues of fire. The boy swung at the demon with incredible force, but she managed to dodge. Catwoman asks in surprise what kind of child this is, and suddenly the boy, without wasting a second, strikes again and cuts off the demon's tail. The demoness notices that her tail is cut off, and boiling with anger begins to cast curses. The boy realizes that he still knows little about fighting and has little experience, but with this magical sword he can win. Then suddenly, in a moment, he feels something sharp and drops the sword. Suddenly the man is seized by a severe headache. The demoness, not expecting such a turn, asks in surprise what is happening, and she notices that the appearance of the artifact has changed. The demon sees an old rusty sword lying on the ground and wonders if this artifact has an expiration date. One of them laughs, admitting he is a funny guy, but she will destroy him anyway. She attacks, but suddenly a shield appears before her, held by the girl. Daya appeared in time before the boy and stood in defense while he recovered. The demon was frightened to see this girl again. The demon got angry and declared that she would crush this artifact. To this, Amsty, looking at Daya, replied that it is impossible. It is an eternal shield. Its endurance is infinite. The demoness is furious and stunned. She asks if it is really infinite and wonders how this is even possible and how this girl managed to get it. The demon, using acceleration magic again, mockingly says that the boy's artifact and the girl's shield are disgusting and useless against her. In a second she disappears. The boy wonders where she went, and the girl just closes her eyes and listens. In a moment the demon strikes the girl, but she manages to raise her shield. The demon flares up with rage, not understanding how this is possible. The girl replies that it could have been a coincidence and anxiously asks what the demon will do next. Catwoman uses acceleration magic again and strikes, but this is also in vain. The demon became even angrier and snarled, "Who are you anyway? You are not even adventurers yet." To which Daya looked at him fiercely. The boy suddenly realizes, all this time she was protecting him not by accident. He realized that it was not because she saw the monster before anyone else or noticed the enemy's movement. She predicts the future. The enemy Catwoman disappears again right before them. The boy grabs his sword, which is ready for battle again, and asks the girl where she is now. The girl turns around, listening carefully to him. She closes her eyes, anticipating the future, suddenly opens them and points to where the demon should appear. The enemy materializes in an instant. Catwoman lunges at the boy, but he is already ready and defends himself. The man, a little nervous and even a little scared, admits with surprise that the demon is really incredibly fast and agile, jumps back a little confused, and sincerely says that he cannot touch her under any circumstances. The demon, bent over with laughter, began to laugh hysterically, angry and constantly cursing during her speech. She declared with deafening wit that she would destroy all her opponents without exception. The boy, after considering the situation, understands that even if he somehow manages to defeat her in this battle, he exhales, says that everything is fine and will bravely try again under any circumstances. So he decides to use magic called Shatten to try to change the course of events. Suddenly, the demon is pierced again by a black lightning bolt, a shocking impression, and she just sighs as if she does not give it much importance. Catwoman, enraged and overwhelmed with emotions, begins to scream in fury. Didn't I say this wouldn't work, that everything was decided in advance? And suddenly, as if at that very moment, Amicia shouted that it had to be done now. And at that very moment, as if by a wave of magic, Ratzu appears behind the demon and delivers a powerful blow. The demon clearly did not expect such a turn of events, such a sudden change. Feeling a surge of confidence, the man delivered a powerful vertical strike to the demon, and the Catwoman, to her great regret, did not manage to react or defend herself. The boy decisively slices the demon in half, defeats it, and it soon begins to dissolve into the air, fluttering away. The girls standing nearby froze in amazement, and Dea, filled with joy, shouted loudly with a wide smile on her face that they did it, that they managed to defeat the uncontrollable threat. The man says easily and with incredible sincerity that it is all thanks to her and Amicia, thanks to their spiritual strength and courage. The young man, full of respect, approaches her, and the girl looks at him somewhat surprised and interested. The man smiles, and the girl, a little embarrassed by her own reaction, awkwardly tries to say something, but the words seem to get stuck in her throat. Suddenly, the boys hear that the time for the exam is rapidly running out. When they heard this, Ratzu and Dea instantly became frightened. They have only one doll. The boy takes it out and does not know what to do next. The man, with horror in his heart, realizes either he or Dea will die, and one of them, unfortunately, will not be able to become an adventurer. This realization overwhelms him, leaving only a shadow of anxiety in his soul. At night, dangerous people prowl through the forest, loudly asking each other if anyone has found the girl, because she must be tracked before she reaches the city. The girl peeks out from the bushes in fear and watches them. She heals her wounded hand with restoration magic, but after a few seconds the process suddenly stops, and the girl approaches the edge of the cliff, gazing at the night forest. Look at the tree and it rages. The travelers are to blame for everything. In the city, a man approaches the rats and asks them to tell him about the demon attack when the exams are over. The boy agrees, then looks away and gazes at the only doll. The man looks at the doll with a heavy, serious face, thinks, and weighs what to do next. Suddenly, Dea quietly sneaks up from behind and calls him. The man turns and places the doll in her hands. He holds her without letting go and says that the girl must become a traveler, and Dea looks at the doll with surprise. The girl begins to panic but persuades the boy not to do this. She says that he defeated the demon and got the doll, so in her opinion he should become an adventurer. The man calms the girl, telling her that when they first met, his adventure could have ended right then. Dea looks at him in surprise. The boy took her hands along with the doll, pressed them tightly, and said that she protected a stranger because in the village kindness undoubtedly protects many. He tightly squeezes her palms, looks at the doll, and sincerely congratulates her. Without letting go of the doll by the hands, Amesty suddenly appears. She looks at them and asks how long the boy will still hold her hand. The man suddenly turns and lets go of the girl's hand. He clearly did not expect to see her right now. Dea blushes from embarrassment, and Amesty, with a bandaged arm and a sly smile, asks if they are really a couple. The boy blushes at the girl's words and awkwardly denies it. Dea, worried about her, says that she is injured and must rest, and the girl, embarrassed, whispers that she knows and will soon go to rest, suddenly takes out the doll and tosses it up. The doll falls right into his hands. He catches it and wonders why did the girl do that. Mesty tells him that the doll is not needed by the three of them, so she will lend it to him. The boy is surprised by the girl's action. Amesty goes further into the city, passing by Dea and not paying any attention to her. Dea notices this and turns around to ask something, but Amesty, without looking back, says to her, "Remember." She turns back with a wide, warm smile and says that she will catch up with her soon. The girl exhales with relief, tears well up in her eyes, but she beams with a smile and says she will look forward to it. The boys watch as the three friends walk away, and one of them asks the girl if she is okay, to which she loudly replies that everything is fine. Suddenly, someone addressed the boys, saying that they are the only two who have not yet undergone the procedure, and the heroes raised their heads in surprise. The voice was unknown. The boys turn around and see Janet. She accuses them of letting in a demon, but the girl herself admits that now she is very grateful to them. The girl looks at them intently and says that from now on their life will become much more dangerous. The woman declares with serious intent that from today they are travelers. The girl and the boy become shy because they were very pleased to hear these words. The boys went into a bar to celebrate the promotion. They cheerfully clinked glasses with cocktails. The girl turns to the boy and says that all this is very expensive, and he, raising his fist, cheerfully replies that today is a holiday they can rest, adding that he still has a lot of money from his mother, and the girl, embarrassed and worried, offers to pay the bill herself. Suddenly Ratzu remembered and, unable to hold back, asked the girl, when he was returning from the guild, did he accidentally overhear Amesja talking about his apology for the demon attack? He tells her that in a week they were allowed to take the exam, and the girl, although nervous, is at the same time happy for her friend. He says she shouldn't worry about them, and she replies that she agrees she understood everything. She wipes tears from her face and with a warm smile replies that they couldn't become adventurers together, but someday they will still have adventures together. The boy listens to her words in surprise. The man, as if agreeing, says that she is right. The girl froze in surprise, clearly not expecting such an answer, and asks again what he means. The boy confesses his secret. He also has a person to whom he promised to become an adventurer. The man says that when he was weak, this man always defended him without hesitation. And after a short pause, the girl, while having dinner, says that she understood everything. Dea asks shyly if he really wants to join him. The man, holding a cup, waves it off, says that he is still far from him. First, he needs to reach a new level. He looks at his reflection in the cup with the drink and says that someday he will become even stronger. The girl understood everything, and looking at the boy who was sipping from the mug, asked if this is really a test for promotion. She admitted that her goal is to be above the white level. The boy understood and asks again about the white level. He admits that he understands the girl strives for the top. Dea looks down and asks if he knows about the dangerous zone in the Shirogane cave. She says that they don't let you in if you are not a white-level adventurer. The man asks why she wants to go there, and the girl answers simply she needs to go there, and that is exactly why she became an adventurer. The girl, with a serious face, says that her parents are adventurers who went into the Shirogane cave and never returned, and she admits that she really wants to find out what happened to them. The boy couldn't believe his ears. He asks if those are really her father and mother, and the girl stands up as if she is going to confess something to him. She firmly takes his hands, looks sincerely, and asks if he will join their group, because she believes they are a wonderful couple. The man quietly laughed at the question. The girl, seeing his reaction, became worried and asked why he was laughing. Stopping laughing, the boy says that he just heard this somewhere before, which made the girl even more embarrassed. The man jumps up from the table, impatiently wants to thank the girl. He shines with happiness, and finally reveals the real reason why he wants to become an adventurer. The man sincerely admits that his goal is to become a hero and protect people. He asks her if it is okay for him to dream about such things, and the girl happily smiles, agreeing that everything is fine. The boys form a team, promising to give all their strength and become great travelers. The next day, Ratzu and Dea come to Janet, and she says with relief that they have finally come. The man greets her and asks how he can help, and the girl, worried, answers that because of a demon she forgot to give them something very important. She lays out 2 books on the table and says, "Here it is." The boys pick them up, hold them in their hands, and look at them, and one of them asks what they are and what they are for. Janet explains that these are proofs of task completion from the adventurer's notebook, and that with their help they will be able to receive rewards and stamps, and the boys look at their books in surprise. The boy asks in shock what these stamps are, and the girl explains that by collecting a certain number, they will be able to take a promotion test. The girl and the man are surprised. It turns out that it is really possible to take a rank promotion test with the help of stamps. The girl asks if they really want to take the promotion exam and says that this city is for beginner adventurers. The tasks here are quite simple, and the reward stamps are small. Janet hands them the form and says that she will immediately select the perfect local requests for them, while the guys with the books carefully look at the form. The man holds the form in his hand and, not hiding his surprise, asks, "Is this really a postcard? I want a dog. And is this really the perfect request?" The guy reads the form and says that the reward seems too small to him, and his girlfriend, calming him down, replies that this is only the beginning. Janet says that if they want to get a highly paid request, then why not change their field of activity? The girl asks her what it means to change the base. She says that there are strange orders that many adventurers take on, ranging from the copper class to the black. Suddenly the girl gasps, apparently remembering something. Dea asks what happened. The girl replies that the adventurer list from Blue Stria recently disappeared. Dea tensely asks what he means by disappeared, and involuntarily imagines that the man was captured by demons. The guy says that they need to think everything over, but for now they will take the application to find the dog. The guy apologized to the girl, saying that he decided everything himself. The girl replied that it's okay, but insisted and asked what really happened. The guy explained that he was interested in this request because it came only recently. The guy says worriedly that the dog they are looking for disappeared this morning near the Nanashiki forest. The girl thoughtfully replies that this might be the same place where they took the exam. The man nodded and agreed. It will be bad if the impatient owner starts looking for it. The girl, understanding everything, froze in surprise. The guy admits that maybe Janet deliberately gave them this task, because if they had looked more closely and thought about something. But before he could finish speaking, the girl interrupts him, noticing something ahead. Dea approaches the tree, moves closer to the bushes, and sits down, staring at what caught her attention. The boy reacts with surprise to her behavior and asks what happened there. A man approaches a girl who is just intently looking into the bushes, and suddenly he notices a multitude of goblins in hats with sticks ahead. The man realizes that these are kobolds and says that they noticed them and set up an ambush. The boy admits that they are very cunning, but the girl sharply turns around and orders him to look around. Suddenly, a crowd of goblins surged towards the boys. The boy and the girl were frightened when they realized they were surrounded. Terrible kobolds cunningly laugh, clearly plotting something. The boy understands that these creatures are not strong alone, but when there are so many around, things can end badly. He knows that Dea cannot protect them from such a crowd, but suddenly decides that he has a chance and takes blades from his back pocket. Dea, noticing the weapon in the boy's hands, suddenly realizes this is the same weapon of that demonic cat. The boy, without hesitation, combines his sword and the demon's blades, creating a synthesis of artifacts. Kobolds watch closely, looking at his actions with surprise. That guy says he gives the magical black flame, and in a moment his sword becomes even stronger. The man narrows his eyes and whispers the spell double magic, then suddenly takes a fighting stance and raises his new sword, casting the spell black lightning. The girl looks stunned at the young man's actions. She does not understand what is happening, and he is already heading towards the tapestry, brandishing a black sword. The kobolds were completely terrified and fled because they knew well, if he touched them, it was the end for them. The boy swung to strike, but the goblins jumped back with horror in their eyes and rushed away from him. Dea anxiously looks at Rats, and the boy sees his sword spark with black lightning that suddenly strikes him with a powerful blow. The girl fearfully asks if he is okay, and if this is really his artifact and the same demonic cat, and he replies that this is a sword skill synthesis of artifacts, and it is possible to synthesize not only weapons but also the skills themselves. He explains that one artifact can contain two different abilities at once. The boy admits that he was tormented by the thought of whether they can be activated simultaneously. The girl replies that she understood everything but admits this will be a truly special artifact. The boy realizes that double magic can be activated. His mind will endure it, but his body will not. Suddenly, a girl with a puppy in her arms jumped out of the bushes. She admitted it was incredible but asked in surprise what they were doing here, and suddenly the dog barked. The heroes heard this bark. The girl, fearing she will be exposed, runs away. Meanwhile, the boy and the girl approach the source of the sound and realize that it was coming from that bush. Suddenly, a little further, they noticed a girl sitting on the ground next to a small dog. Dea asked if she was okay, but the man asked her not to rush. The man hides the girl behind his back, and Dea looks stunned, does not understand what he is doing. The man says he suspected that something was wrong with her. Suddenly, the man said that this girl was a demon. What he said struck her, and she, frightened, realized she had been exposed. Dea asks again, not understanding. This girl does not look like a demon at all. The boy says that, in his opinion, they should quickly inform the Adventurers Guild about this. The man knows that demons are enemies of people, but looking at the frightened girl, he sees she seems like an ordinary person, and this makes him nervous, does not understand if he can kill her. Ratzu remembered how since childhood he had read about heroes, and for him there was no doubt. Demons were enemies of humans. The man understands that the demons they encountered were a threat and enemies of humans. But now, for the first time, doubts crept into him. A boy and a girl stand opposite a girl dog, and the boy asks himself if the demon standing before him is an enemy. The man slowly touches the sword, and the girl, noticing this and realizing that he is an adventurer, begins to tremble with horror and fear. The boy looks at her and cannot understand whether she is really afraid, because from the demon's perspective, adventurers are enemies. The boy looks at the girl who is trembling with fear and says that this is exactly why demons have attacked him until now, but admits that he feels no hostile threat from this demon. And suddenly, a small dog begins to bark at the hero, protecting his friend. The small dog barks with all its might at the boy, protecting the girl who herself did not expect this from her friend. Ratzu and Dea were surprised by the dog's behavior. The man remembers every demon that tried to kill him. The boy thinks and does not understand what he should do now. The man wonders what he would do if he were a hero, and reflects on what Ruby would do in this situation. Ratzu drives away unnecessary thoughts. He realized that he has become a traveler, and now must decide on his own. Suddenly, the man hears a small demon calling his brother. He sees the demon squeezing her small hands, and the doctor calls his brother for help. What he saw stunned the man, and after thinking again, he lowers the sword. Suddenly, he reaches out his hand to the crying girl as a sign of peace. The boy leans slightly, smiles warmly, and apologizes for scaring her, then asks if everything is okay. Dea looks at him in surprise. She did not expect this at all from her friend. The girl is even more surprised and frightened, but suddenly stands up and says that she is fine. Suddenly realizing, Dea smiles and says that it turned out to be the same dog. The demon replied that he looked like a lost child, so they had been together all this time. The heroes, stunned, ask the girl what she is doing in this forest, and the boy clarifies if she is really lost, to which the demon, turning his head away and pressing the dog to himself, says that she is not lost at all. The man says he understands, and adds it is dangerous to be alone here anyway. Dea senses this mood and quickly says they will take her home. The demoness presses the little dog to herself and admits that she has nowhere to go because she has no home. The heroes are shocked by what they hear. The girl sadly looks at the same lost dog and replies that it is precisely because of him that she did not get lost. The man watches what is happening with surprise. Suddenly, the girl puts down the little dog and says that it is time for her to go. But the dog turns around, stands on its hind legs, and barks at her, clearly worried. The demon sits next to the dog and says not to worry, it will be better if the dog goes with these people. Suddenly, the dog jumped on the girl and knocked her to the ground. The heroes froze in amazement, watching as the little dog licks the demon as a sign of love, and the girl lies on the ground laughing, begging the dog to stop because it tickles her. Dea and Ratzu also laughed at this cute scene. The girl strokes the dog, and the boy asks if she wants them to contact the Adventurers Guild for her help, and the girl looks at him in surprise. Suddenly, she got scared hearing about the Adventurers Guild, and the boy, apologizing, assured that, of course, he would not tell anyone that she is a demon. Dea says that the girl needs to find a home, and the man replies that everything must be done secretly. Suddenly, the girl curls up and sadly replies that it is okay, she wants to be alone. The boy froze at what he heard, looking at the poor demon girl, and suddenly felt something. In an instant, a huge dagger rushes toward them. The boy, without hesitation, grabbed the girl and shielded her from the blow, but the powerful magic still struck them. A strong blow through the boy, and the demon aside Dea is very worried about them. The girl, glancing at the shabby boy, asks if he is okay. He replies that everything is fine. The demon girl, embarrassed and with fear in her eyes, whispered, "Why did you help me? I am a demon." The man, breathing heavily, replied that although she was a demon, she was not an enemy. Suddenly, she remembers the man who said he loves human connections, and without hesitation, reaches out to him, preparing to do something. She gently places her palm on his back and releases healing magic to heal the boy. In a moment, the man stands up and notices that his wounds have disappeared. The girl asks if it is healing magic. The man wonders why future sight did not work. He thinks whether this attack was not aimed at them. Suddenly, a stranger appeared before them and said he had heard a lot, then sharply ordered the boy to step back. This shocked rats. Helio stands before them and scolds them. Suddenly, the boy remembers this Manthe crossed paths in childhood, and several more boys come out of the bushes, ordering the man not to go alone. Suddenly, they noticed the boys and asked who they were. The man sharply turned to Helio. "Did you really attack other adventurers?" Helio replied coldly that they were not adventurers. Suddenly, Ratzu turns to Helio and says that he himself has become an adventurer. The boy hears this with surprise, then laughs loudly and asks if they really lack people so much as to take someone like him. Suddenly, the man's mood grew cold, and he sharply ordered the boy to answer why he was defending the demon. To this, the boy, shielding the girl with his back, said that this child is not aggressive. Helio began swearing and asked if he really hadn't read all those books about heroes, where it was said that demons and humans are enemies. Suddenly, the man behind Helio asked if he was all right. He says they received a request and were chasing this demon, considering him a suspect in the disappearance of the adventurer. The boy extends his hand and asks if he can give it to them. Dea is surprised by what she heard. The boy admits that Janet talked about it. Suddenly, the little demon trembles with fear, trying to say something. The girl clings to the boy's shirt. With horror in her eyes, says she doesn't know what's happening, it's not her. The demon asks the boy to believe her. The man grabs his weapon and says that since he doesn't want to give up the demon, he will deal with him here himself. Ratzu is overwhelmed with fear. From what he heard, he realizes that now he will have to fight him. Helio's partners ask him to calm down and ask what he intends to do, to which the man explodes with swearing and orders them to shut up. He looks sternly at the heroes and decisively says that he will destroy the demon. Ratzu begs Steia to protect her. Helios growled that this is the last warning and ordered him to step back. The boy grabbed the sword and shouted that he refuses to do it. The man became even angrier and attacked him, striking with a spear. The boy deflects the blow, but the force still throws him backward. Suddenly, Helio flies in and hits him. Ratzu was knocked back by the blow, and the man cursed, calling that boy all sorts of insults. He begins kicking him with his feet, sternly ordering him not to resist. The man silently does not resist and allows Helio to strike. The man's partners order him to stop. Suddenly, Dea appears before Helio and also orders him to stop. She stands in front of the boy, spreading her arms wide and protecting him. The men ask if she is really mocking them. He loudly asks if anyone else really defends her. Helio covered his face with his hand and bitterly said that when he sees such a miserable boy, it hurts him deeply. Helio looked through his fingers with a sinister gaze, and the girl turned to him. She says that the boy looks down on others. The man frowns and asks the woman if she recognizes whom she is talking to. The girl raises her head, looks sternly, and says she does not know who he is, then sharply asks, "Who are you?" Suddenly the man, without answering, raises a spear, preparing to strike the girl. But at that moment Ratzu appears, covers her, and deflects the blow. Helio carefully looked at the boy's weapon and asked what kind of artifact it was. Ratzu thanks Deu, and she smiles and says that she is fine boys should primarily protect the girl. Suddenly Helio's partner threw to the other, "While the demon is unprotected, we have a chance?" And he coldly replied, "Not yet." The man looks intently, and his partner asks in surprise why they cannot do it now. Helio got angry and shouted that no matter how much it changed externally, inside it remains the same and nothing will change. The men uttered the spell, "Path of the Magic of the Bloody Spear." Ratzu realized that the first strike was delivered by the one who relied on magic. It is a huge power concentrated in one point. He understands that Helio, who had talent from the very beginning, gained combat experience 3 years earlier than him. Ratzu feels, even if his artifact is better, it cannot compare to Helio. That man understands that attacking head-on is dangerous, and suddenly the boy comes up with a plan and shouts, "I grant magic." The man takes a fighting stance, sharply swings the sphere, and launches a spell of black lightning. He is confident that the first attacker will win and smash his artifact faster than he can strike back. Helio smiled slyly and said that if the boy forgot about it, he would remind him. The boy took a fighting stance and, as if challenging, said that they are actually completely different. Suddenly Ratzu rushed into attack with furious speed. The men look at his speed in surprise, and he, without thinking, swings the spear and shouts that he will destroy that boy. But the man dodges the blow in an instant. Ratzu shouts and gathers his strength. The boy, standing in the open and preparing to strike, delivers a powerful blow directly to the spear and it breaks. Helio's comrades notice that his B-level artifact is destroyed, and Ratzu, looking at the boy, apologizes to him. Helio got angry, looked sternly, and replied that that boy really thinks, as if he broke my artifact so he won. Ratzu, completely confused and stunned by everything he heard, wonders when suddenly, quite unexpectedly and without any warning, the man grabs him by the edge of his shirt. The boy, without hesitation, knocks the hero to the hard ground, and then loudly and clearly declares with contempt that in the end he, unfortunately, is not an adventurer, but just a loser like many others. Helio, gripping the man by the shirt, sharply says that he is definitely vile because he defends their enemy, a demon. And the man, without losing his composure, replies that although she is a demon, she is not an enemy because she helped him. And in a difficult moment he asks if she should really be considered an enemy just because she belongs to the demonic race. Helio, casting a reproachful look at the frightened girl, decisively orders her to listen only to him. He begins to swear and insistently orders the girl to tell everyone whose families, friends, and loved ones were cruelly killed by demons. Were they really not enemies? The boy's anger rises even more. Turning to the rats with irritation, he says that he was going to betray a whole group of people for the sake of a single demon and rhetorically asks, did he really forget what he said at the very beginning of their conversation? Deep in his soul, the man remembers a little boy. With shining eyes, he reads a book and says that he wants to become a hero. To this, Ratzu, full of confidence, grabs Helio by the hand and loudly says that he truly helps everyone who asks for help, even if it is a demon that no one wants to deal with. The man, frowning, replies sarcastically that he understands everything, then swings a broken spear and declares that now in this situation he is the enemy. At that very moment, As if by the wave of a magic wand, people from the guild appear and order the guy to stop immediately and cease all his actions. The man, who has not yet calmed down, growls that adventurers who use artifacts without official registration seriously violate safety rules, and looking at them with an angry, wary gaze, asks if they really do not know this important rule. Ratzu turned his head to the man and thought with embarrassed surprise, are these really people from the guild who came to scold him? The man, with a dissatisfied expression on his face, looking at them with contempt, says grimly, whatever the reason for your fight, both of you will face punishment, so he orders everyone to prepare for the consequences. The residents do not understand why there is such a commotion today. One of the inhabitants says that they were told supposedly a renegade was caught. Janet is sitting in the office and complaining about the noise from the street, and in front of her are Helio and Ratzu, who have turned away. The girl says that it is about a fight between adventurers who use artifacts. Our employees witnessed this clash, and she addresses Helio and Ratzu. Janet asks if they have anything to say in their defense, to which Helio points a finger at that guy and says that he is no longer a traveler because now he is a traitor. The man looked at him angrily and with contempt and said that he came to defend the demon. The girl turns to the boy and asks if what he says is true. Ratzu lowers his gaze and falls silent for a moment, then quietly admits that it is all true. Dea is outraged and upset. She says that it was not like that at all and asks the boy why he says nothing. Helio turns away and steps aside, saying that he thought he would have enough courage to fight back. The man turned his head to the boy and contemptuously said that he is a weakling and a crybaby who cannot even express his opinion. Ratzu lowers his eyes, and the girl in the form of his girlfriend begins to worry even more when suddenly other adventurers who were there appear and say that the boy was just defending himself because the one who attacked without reason was Helio. This, the partner indignantly and loudly asks if he is betraying his comrades, and the man replies that since they are friends, he will not tell the truth and will not take responsibility. He says that Helio often goes mad, but he has never attacked adventurers. The man said that this is a problem. He admits that he hesitated when he thought about it, but if they were true friends, they would have stopped him, as Dea did. Suddenly, an employee runs into the office, apologizes, and addresses Janet. The girl asks if the interrogation is over. The man approaches and whispers all the information to her, to which she replies that everything is clear. Janet addresses the heroes and says that their story and the demon's story are actually one and the same, and the girl adds that Helio and his group will be punished. They will be suspended for a week, and the artifacts will be temporarily taken away. A guild member ordered to hand over the artifacts, and one of the adventurers began to grumble while another shouted for him to hurry. Helio turned to her and said that he had no time to play the adventurer like he did. With a stern look, he added that he would not become like her, and that boy understood everything that was being discussed. The group sets off, and the girl, puzzled, asks what he meant. Suddenly, Janet opens the door and calls them to go. The heroes walk down a long corridor, and Dea, looking at Ratzu, asks, "Why didn't you say anything in response?" The man simply laughed in response, and the girl asked what he could be laughing at. He admits that he was constantly asked that question. He recalls how since childhood there was one girl who always said, "You are a boy, you must respond to those who offended you." The man acknowledges that it is not that he did not want to respond, and suddenly Janet turns around and looks at the heroes. Ratzu, looking at the girl, admits that he really wanted to help her. Janet asks if he is really ready to defend the enemy of humanity, accept the world's condemnation, and ultimately become a traitor. Dea listens to the girl's words with surprise, but the boy firmly replies that he was ready, and Janet says she understands everything and opens the door to the room. In the room at the table sits a small demon girl, and Janet says that they decided. She has nothing to do with the disappearance of the adventurers, to which the boy and the girl just exchanged surprised looks. Dea and Ratzu were glowing with joy upon hearing the girl, but suddenly Janet interrupted. It turns out there is another problem. The girl says that her life is still in danger because, it seems, demons are chasing her. The boy froze in shock and recalls the moment when the girl said that this was exactly why she did not get lost. Janet says that's why they will take her with them and bring her to the guild headquarters. One of the adventurers near the fountain bitterly says that the artifacts were taken for a week. Because what can you do, they are not friends. The man asks how long he will keep complaining, to which they reply that they are friends and should discuss everything, and he asks why they were in such a hurry. Helio bowed his head and was silent. Suddenly the man turned to him and asked he wanted to extract a confession, and after reading this, he began to lose patience. He says that this article caused a real uproar. One of the 7 great demons was destroyed by the hero's right hand, and that was Helio's best friend from childhood. The guys leave the castle and Ratzu pushes them. "Let's go, there is no one here," and silence stands. Dea calmly replies that even if they are noticed, the girl is in a hood, so everything will be fine. Ratzu says that the guild headquarters is located in the largest city of Clearland. The girl asks if there are many adventurers there. Dea agrees she thinks that is probably the most important thing. The girl says that they will meet with the guild leader to get permission to live in the city, but admits that she is a little scared. The guy reassures her. Everything will be fine, everything was explained to her. The demon girl agrees with him, and the man sighs with relief. Everything will be fine because she is not involved in the disappearance. But suddenly, they notice something. Ratzu and Dea came to their senses and awkwardly admit that they still haven't introduced themselves. So they tell the girl their names so she finally knows what to call them. The girl hesitantly replies that her name is Shatorin Torre. The guys are glad that she finally introduced herself. The girl asks where she lived before, to which she answers that she lived on Mount Kokuyo, and the guy interestedly asks what kind of place it is. The girl says that it is a place where something is always burning and scorching, and the men note that it is hard to live there. He asks if she plans to return there. Suddenly the girl falls silent. The guy asks what happened. Shatorin trembles with fear and says that there is something terrible there. The boy got scared, suddenly realizing that this was a painful topic for her. The man changes the subject and says it's time to eat. He asks the girls if they are hungry, and Dea is delighted, quickly catching the hint and cheerfully agreeing. The man confidently and swiftly, surprisingly, assigns duties to everyone around. With enthusiasm, he says he will set up the camp himself, and the girl will take care of dinner. She, without hesitation, happily agrees. Meanwhile, a large, beautiful fire has flared up, and the place is filled with coziness. The interested man suddenly asks Rin if she can even eat human food, and she answers without hesitation that everything is fine. Dea, sitting nearby, asks if she finds it tasty, but the girl again easily says everything is good, although the man begins to doubt whether she is really okay. Suddenly, the boy notices a shining ring on the girl's index finger, and burning with curiosity, asks her to show her artifact. It's an extremely interesting thing. The girl, a little surprised and confused, looks at the boy, and he, a bit embarrassed, tries to justify himself and says he didn't think she could suspect him. Feeling the awkwardness in the air, Dea picks up the conversation and reassures. "It's okay, don't worry," adding that the boy is just a huge fan of artifacts that happens. The girl, although a little embarrassed, admits that the man really often looks at other people's artifacts, but this makes her blush even more and she apologizes. The man, of course, in turn also gets embarrassed and worried, convincing himself that this is not true at all. He asks the girl when he did that. She laughs and replies that she is just joking, adding a bit of lightness to the conversation. Rin, observing, looks at them in surprise and silently tries to understand the essence of it all. The man, a little embarrassed, asks the girl why she brought it up. He blushes and admits that he is actually very interested in such artifacts, and suddenly she giggles and it becomes quite funny. The heroes turn back and look at the happy girl. She can finally smile after such a long time, and this smile fills the atmosphere with joy. Rin, believing the boy, extends her palm to him and shows the ring, and he, a little surprised, asks for permission to look and sincerely thanks her for the trust. Touching the ring, he sees that it is a rank C ring, and studying its characteristics, sadly realizes the artifact is unfortunately very weak. Ratzu, going over all these thoughts in his head, realized it is not surprising at all that the guild immediately decided this girl is safe. The boy suddenly understands. Level 1 indisputable proof that she has never killed anyone. The girl, clenching her hands, asks if this is enough, and the man, with sincere respect, admits that he is glad he saved her and that she is still around. The boy, addressing the girl, says that the sacred artifact of demons is a weapon that kills people. But on the other hand, it is a simple, useful thing that can heal wounds. The girl looks at her glowing ring with interest, sinking into thoughts about how useful it might be to her. The man says that she saved a dog and helped them when they were wounded, and admits that this sacred treasure is worthy of her kindness. The girl is embarrassed by what she heard and is glad she was able to help someone. She wants to say something, but the words do not come, so she lies down and says that it is time for her to sleep, and Dea asks if she does not want to go to the tent. He nodded, admitted that he also needs sleep, and decided that they would take turns keeping watch. Today was too hard and intense a day for everyone. The girl, turning to the man who leaned on her arm and listened attentively, says that she heard something interesting from Miss Janet and tells him about a special zone for demon protection Gensok, which sounds very intriguing. Dea, holding a hot mug of aromatic drink, asks the boy with interest if he knows anything about this special place, to which he replies that, unfortunately, he knows nothing, and his curiosity only grows. The man stood up and looked at her questioningly. "What is this place you are talking about?" The girl, becoming more serious, answers that it is a special place created by the guild to protect and shelter harmless demons. There should be no conflicts under any circumstances. She thinks that people and demons live there completely without quarrels, and this gives optimists a few ideas. The boy, interested, could not resist and asked where this place is. But the girl, with a barely noticeable sadness in her voice, replies that such a place does not exist. The plan was rejected and discarded, and this is very sad. The man, putting his hand on his face, says that after today's events, such a place would be just what is needed. The boy, replaying Daya's words in his head, pressed his head with his palm and asked why she even started this conversation, to which Daya, a little embarrassed, quietly replied with a question: does he really care about her? The girl, looking at the sleeping girl, whispered that it was not done by accident, but carefully planned so there were people, similar to them, who sincerely wanted to help the innocent demons who were being persecuted. The man's eyes widened with surprise, as if a spark of a new thought had hit his head, and the girl, without hesitation, continued speaking, leading to the idea that although people say they are mistaken, she still believes they are absolutely right. Ratzu, feeling a surge of joy, sincerely smiles and thanks the little girl for her support, promising that they will definitely find a home for Rin, and this thought fills him with hope. The little girl, hearing this, blushes with embarrassment, but at the same time gives everyone a warm and gentle smile. The next morning, the boys, full of enthusiasm, set out on the road, energetically walking through mountains and rocks, wading through wide rivers and enjoying the beauty of nature around. The boys walked further and further along unknown paths, and one of them noticed that today they had covered quite a distance, and this pleased him. The work is done. We are moving forward. The boys decided to swim in the lake to refresh themselves on a hot day, and Rin, enjoying the water, asks the boy, "Aren't you going to swim with us?" To this, the girl smiles, but with a slight reproach states that the man cannot go with them, and the boy just remains silent and looks at them awkwardly, assessing the situation. He smiles warmly and says that when they are together like this, it doesn't matter whether a person or a demon. What matters is that they are here, next to each other. The boy cannot get rid of the thought. There is another, scarier side: real dangers, such as cases of disappearance, and this thought does not let him go. After swimming, when the fun begins to fade, Dyer apologizes to the boy for making him wait so long. The boy returns to business and rummages in his bag when suddenly he hears an ominous, vile laugh. Surprised and alert, he looks ahead, and his heart begins to beat faster with anticipation. He looks up and sees a crowd of demons in front of him, ready to attack them, and he becomes anxious. The crocodile-headed demon smiles widely and addresses Shadowrun, cheerfully announcing that he has found her, but these words sound threatening. Rin, seeing the demons, is very frightened. The boy, looking at their number, asks himself with surprise, are these really demons, and why are there so many? And then, glancing at the girl who stood up to protect Rin, begins to wonder how they could have missed them earlier. The crocodile-headed demon, swinging his sword and smiling, says that if they do not give up the girl, he will be killed, and if he gives her up, they will quickly kill them, challenging him. The demon offers him a choice, as if it were a game. The boy, realizing the seriousness of the situation, stands in a fighting stance, holding his still inactive sword. He is silent but closely watches the demon's movements, preparing for any turn of events. Suddenly, the demon, unable to restrain himself, lunges forward and orders him to respond. The monster swings his sword and strikes. The tension in the air tightens from this. The boy calmly and confidently states that the demon is too slow, and it sounds like a challenge. The reptile simply laughs, confidently says that they will see about that, and swings his sword again. But the boy was faster, activated his sword and struck the demon, cutting off his paw, stunning everyone present. The man raises a pistol to the monster's face, and with sincere, genuine determination proclaims that he will not give him the girl and will not kill him, looks at the demon seriously and unwaveringly, and firmly says that this is his answer. His determination is palpable in the air. The demon, horrified by the boy's actions, is scared and does not understand who he is. He admits that this is not what he was told, and fear pierces him. Suddenly all the demons, as if on command, are also gripped by panic, and without thinking, flee, and at that moment another figure appears, confidently stating that all their actions are futile. The traveler with one precise strike knocks down all the demons, leaving them defenseless. Ratzu ducks to avoid the blow, hides behind a tree, and looks at the man sitting on a branch in the distance. And the traveler, seeing their confusion, apologizes and says that they do not need these futile demons. The boy notices before them stands a snow-white child. Her skin, hair, eyes, and all her clothes, even the mysterious artifact, seem to glow with the purity of white. The man looks at him attentively, thinks and does not understand what this feeling of pressure is, as if some invisible force is trying to squeeze him. Standing on the branch and feeling the full scale of what is happening, The boy admits to himself that he is incredible, and with surprise says that he prepared so many demons, but still defeated them all so easily in battle. At that moment, Ratzu looked at the boy in surprise and asked what he meant. He did not take it as a joke. The man tells him to come down, let's talk calmly, to which he, somewhat doubting, asks, "Why am I such a fool to remain vulnerable?" He looks at them as if invisible and smiles, saying that he will take his tar date anyway, no matter what happens, and this makes the atmosphere even tenser. The man, feeling that he must protect his friends, raised his sword and released a powerful spell. Ratzu wondered what he meant by target, when suddenly Dea noticed that the girl was gone and everyone instantly panicked. In a moment, Rin was already in the boy's arms, and the heroes, frightened, realized that she was in danger again and began to worry about her. Rin, with horror in her voice, calls Ratzu and Dea, regretting that they could not save her then. The boy, without hesitation, throws a black lightning, strikes the enemy with a sword and directs it straight at him, and during the strike, he momentarily notices that the enemy disappeared, and this astonishes him. The boy, who suddenly appeared far behind Ratzu, calmly admitted that the other boy had quite good abilities, thereby acknowledging the strength of his opponent. But the man says that this is still not enough. He needs combat experience, and this thought drives into Ratsu's heart like a nail. The power inside him boiled. He got angry and shouted the girl's name, deciding to save her at any cost. The boy decisively said that he must give up the girl, and again threw black lightning, instantly moving to different points to hit him. Suddenly, the enemy appeared behind and with a slight sneer asked if something was wrong, and Dea noticed how quickly he acts. Ratzu looked around, not noticing how quickly the demons disappeared right under his nose, and this made him worry even more. Suddenly, the girl, taking advantage of the moment, broke free from his grip and decisively shouted to let her go, and the man seriously replied that he had business not only with her. He turns to the girl, glances at the heroes, and asks if she wants him to take these two with him. The boy, with a mocking smile, says they are going to Onyx, and Rin, hearing this name, petrifies with horror and remembers how her brother told her to run. Suddenly, the boy bursts out laughing and cuts through the atmosphere, slicing it like parchment, and Ratzu freezes in amazement. The man does not understand what it is, wonders how he managed to cut space, and it looks incredible. Cutting through space, right in front of the girl appears a huge, shining portal sparkling like the flow of time. Ratzu reaches out his hand and nervously tells Rin to step away from him. While pleading for her to rush to him as soon as possible, there is panic in his voice. But the girl, looking into the portal, does not even turn around. Then the boy, overwhelmed with boundless despair and persistence, shouts her name with his last strength, hoping to snap her out of her stupor, while the white boy just smiles, watching as if this scene amuses him. Suddenly, Rin turns around, looks at the boys with a warm smile, but remains silent. The girl turns away again and slowly steps into the portal, disappearing into its impenetrable depths. The boy says she is a demon and cannot live among people, as if fate itself has already decided this. The man says goodbye to the unfamiliar traveler, and Ratzu, still gripping his hand, freezes in shock, watching as the portal slams shut before them. He watched this hopeful exit until the very end, and understood that he could do nothing about this merciless situation. The next day, the townspeople gather together, full of determination, and declare that today they will find this demon to restore justice. Standing among them, one man asks what the guild will say if there are no results, and his words sow anxiety among the townspeople. Suddenly, a black demon emerges before them, laughing and smiling widely and menacingly. The men in the crowd, caught up in his brazen confidence, ask who he is. Demon with black eyes, cheerfully and arrogantly counted the warriors, about 20, laughed and said he was lucky. He wouldn't have to go to the city, and it sounded like a challenge. The soldiers, whispering to each other, ask if he is a real demon. The demon, without losing confidence, agrees and asks if it is not visible on him, adding that he is not just a demon. But suddenly one of the warriors, overcoming his nervousness, raises his hand and orders everyone to attack, to which the demon only looks at the attackers in surprise. 3 men simultaneously aimed their swords at the demon and dealt powerful blows to his body. But he, without moving from his place, with a slight smile asks if they really intend to act seriously, asks to just listen to him until the end, and these words instantly change the atmosphere. The warriors, not understanding who this man is, look at his confidence with fear, when suddenly the demon declares that he is one of the 7 great demons, and having incredible power, strikes the warriors with a single lightning-fast blow, and everything changes. Ratzu, lost in thought, goes through all his artifacts, takes each in his hands and examines carefully, and with every minute realizes that one by one they become useless for battle. He does not know what is happening, and despair begins to fill his heart. The boy, pondering, cannot understand why none of these artifacts fit. He thought he could create any weapon that would help him. Suddenly Dea is heard wondering why Rin left, and this emphasizes their shared concern, and the girl admits that she thought they were all friends. Remembering how the girl left, the boy sadly admits, if they were really friends, she would not have looked like that. He is embarrassed and confused. The girl, pressing her hands to herself and not quite believing it, nods, because she really laughed when they were together, and it caused her pain. Dea, thinking, wonders why Rin left then, and the boy replies, "Ask her yourself and let's go already because time is short." The girl, surprised, asks where they are going. The boy turns around and says that it is his skill. He explains that the white boy used an artifact, cut through space and moved as if the laws of space did not affect him, and adds that the demons who suddenly appeared and the attack from afar probably caused this whole event and this ability. He realizes that this man cannot be overcome by simple strength, as before, and this makes him uneasy. Ratzu unexpectedly admits that he seems to know where Rin is now, and this gives him hope. The man looks at the girl and says that this part of the space smells like something burning. He remembers how the girl said she lived in a place where something is always on fire. Suddenly Dea remembers this, and with uncertainty in her voice, asks if she really told them about this place. Her memories are hazy. The boy, full of determination, confidently says he will save Rin. He orders the girl, "We are now boarding Kokuyo," and it sounds almost like a spell. At this moment, a white boy and a girl enter a huge gloomy cave filled with mysterious whispers of darkness. Upon entering, the boy, turning to Onyx, says with excitement that he is finally home, and it sounds as if he is returning after a long journey. From the corner emerged a demon with a snake's head and greeted the boy. The man asked about Onyx. The demon replied that he was outside, but had just returned, and these words raised a sharp sense of anticipation in everyone present. Suddenly another demon runs up to them, happily rejoicing that Quartz has finally returned. The girl notices him and immediately freezes in fear, while the demon, joyful and threatening at the same time, greets her warmly and asks if she really did not miss him. Rin is gripped by panic. She is afraid and retreats, shrinking with horror. The demon, reporting on Quartz's affairs, asks what happened to their guys, and the white one, not hiding his indifference, throws out, "Unfortunately, it didn't work," and this raises tension in everyone. The boy asked if he knew that they were not only going to the royal capital, but also by the very same routing. This made their journey even more important. The demon looked at him sternly and replied that they had information about a renegade who was planning to take Rivenjeth's news shocked everyone. Suddenly, the demon flops onto a stone and boldly declares that even among them there is an informant secretly working in the guild. He says that it is worth giving people money and they will do anything, because that is their whole essence, to which the girl looks at him in surprise. Quartz, agreeing with this, says that he would still be glad if he could help him, to which the black demon suddenly declares that Quartz must join his group. The boy confidently replies that if he joins them, he will not be able to cooperate with other factions, and these words will bury all hopes. The demon sitting on the stone throne asks with interest what his true goal is. White Demon, smiling widely, reveals his true intentions. He wants to destroy humans and admits that this is his greatest desire in the world. Black Demon, with a cheeky smile, asks if he should be more careful after all. If everything succeeds, he might even become the king of demons of the next generation. The demon again says that the previous candidate was killed by a little red-haired girl, and Quartz replies that he doesn't care, and this only emphasizes the fighter's determination. The boy admits that it's time for him to go save Virin. The demon asks with interest how many adventurers were there, and the man replies that they will never come to her aid because Virin came to this place alone, and they have no reason to help her. The white boy picks up his thing and walks away, saying that they will see each other again soon. His words are wrapped in mystery. The black demon, surprised by what he heard, turns to her and asks if she really came here alone. Suddenly the black demon rushed to her, hugged the girl, and asked if she was finally ready to heal his right hand, which frightened the girl, and she begged him to stop. The girl pushed him away and shouted for him not to touch her. Suddenly the black demon noticed her ring, touched it, and realized that she is still first level, asking if she still cannot kill a human, and Rin looked at the demon fearfully. The black demon lets her go and asks if she didn't come back to restore his hand, but the girl firmly refuses. Rin shouts at him, saying that she has told him this many times. She doesn't have that much power. The demon covers his face with his palm and asks if it's true because then her current power is not enough, but suddenly calms her down, saying not to worry because he has prepared something for such a case, and the girl fearfully asks what he has planned. The black demon calls Cinta and says that since she left, he started kidnapping adventurers and courtiers, and has long been wondering if there is someone who can heal his right hand. The man admits that, unfortunately, there are none. The girl suddenly notices something, asks to wait, and asks what he has been doing all this time, and the demon admits that he was kidnapping adventurers. Suddenly, Rin recalls with fear what Janet said about the disappearance of the adventurer. The black demon says he expected nothing from people, but at that moment, he came up with a successful plan. The man says that artifacts become better when they kill people. He admits that the process is unimportant, the main thing is to destroy the person, and suddenly the girl sees a wooden cart approaching. She sees, in the cart pulled by demons, people are in very serious condition. One of the demons lifts the cart and all the people fall to the ground. The girl is scared to death. Barely alive people who asked for help lie before her. Ren falls to the ground and does not dare to move. The demon coldly asks what she is doing. The black demon with a terrible face grabs the girl and says he gathered all these materials so she could level up and restore his hand, staring intently at her face and commanding, "Kill them." Ratzu and Daya quickly walk through the forest, and the tired girl, breathing heavily, apologizes to the boy for being a burden to him and asks him to continue on alone, leaving her behind. But the boy returns to the girl and says that they have reached Mount Kokuyo. Ren remembers that her brother's name is Reitori and wonders why he took two names. Little Rin runs after her brother and asks why he is called Right and Tafru, and the boy ahead replies that people, besides names, have surnames connected to their family. He asks his sister with a smile if this is really soap, and immediately imitates it. The girl looks at her brother with admiration, agrees, and joyfully announces that from now on she is Shitori Tori. Rin remembers that her brother sincerely and passionately loved Pipli so much that she nicknamed him Human Sane, because he was interested in so-called human connections. The girl recalls that he loved her like a younger sister because she was born in the same village. She admits that she sincerely adored him like a true loving brother. Rin shows her brother the dark ring, and he tells her that now she has her own ring. She happily shows off her glowing ring. The boy tells that there is a custom. Lovers put rings on the ring finger of the left hand during the signing of the contract. The girl beams with happiness and says that she should do the same with her brother, but the boy replies that they are brother and sister, so it is not allowed, therefore they will put the rings on the index finger of the right hand, and she, surprised, decides. Why not? The boy told his sister that because of her kindness, she received healing magic that can be directed at people and demons, and with a smile added that this artifact suits her perfectly. Rin says that she thought this peace would last forever, but it lasted only until his arrival. The girl, locked in the forest, sees a demon wounded by an adventurer and rushes to him, asking if he is okay. The girl, without hesitation, applies healing magic to him, but the demon only looks at himself and suddenly runs away. Rin is offended that he did not even thank her, and the brothers say that the demon was offended and upset, so there is no point in being angry at him. The boy gently strokes his sister's head and praises her for a great job. The girl happily agrees, but suddenly noise reaches them. The townspeople begin to worry. The black demon addressed the girl and said with admiration that she is incredibly talented. He assured that his people will take care of her, introduced himself as Onyx, and said that he came to take her. The girl hides behind her brother's back when the black demon approaches them, and asks her to go with him, saying that only she can return his lost right hand. The boy stands up for his sister and tells the demon that, unfortunately, there is no such power in Shatori now, so he politely asks him to surrender and return home. The demon thinks that since the girl is not capable now, he needs to raise her level by killing people. The boy says that his sister does not want that. The demon is surprised that is quite strange. Onyx admitted that this is extremely bad, he just was bad at communicating, and the demon's face changed, and in an angry, commanding tone, he said that he is not asking her, but ordering. The boy defends his sister. He pulls out a magical sphere and aims it at the demon. The brother orders his sister to run. The frightened girl says she cannot. Then the boy loudly shouts at her to run, and she runs with tears in her eyes. Rin runs into the human village and calls for help. The men, seeing the girl, rush to her and ask what happened, and Rin, breathless from fear and the long run, imploringly asks them to help. She barely utters through her stature that her brother needs help, but the men, seeing the girl, are frightened by her horns. The men begin to shout that she is a demon and will kill everyone, and the girl, receiving no answer, looks at them. The men order everyone in the village to flee, and the desperate girl asks them to listen to her. She approached one of the villagers and begged, but he ordered the others to bring anything that could serve as a weapon. They looked at the demon and were already preparing to deal with him, while the little demon only became more frightened and worried about his brother. She hears the black demon ordering her to destroy the people, and the girl just sits on the floor, clenching her horns and trembling. The demon laughs and looks at Shatorin. What happened? Don't you want to help him? He points to the wounded and mockingly says that he prepared all this just for her.